Good evening, booze. Ah, it's Thursday. It's the best day of the week because tomorrow is Friday, I think. It is Thursday, right? Because I kinda lost track of my days with all this snow. They all look the same. But, hi, I missed you guys, and I'm so sorry that I had to call off, like, 3 days in a row, and I noticed Stevie's like, "10 likes before we kick off," and I'm like, "Yeah, because it's been up since, like, Saturday." or Sunday. So I think I got likes that way. I think people felt sorry for me. I think that's what it was, but I'm here. I feel a little bit better. Um, my asthma's a little flared up, but I'm all drugged up and I feel pretty good. Like, I feel a little drunk, but that's just the Sudafed, I think. So I'm not snotty. So I figured I might as well go ahead and let's do this. Let's knock out Madame Delphine LaLaurie tonight and get her over with. But before we do that, I have to tell you what today is. It's my day. It's Happy Curmudgeon's Day. Yay! Ugh. Nothing has made me more happy than this right now. I love it. That guy looks like Bob, Canton Bob. That's who he looks like. So, and Darlene, I hope you're feeling better too. I hope the antibiotics and stuff that they gave you are making you feel better. I don't think I have a sinus infection, but I am gonna go get some steroids tomorrow. So just in case. But it's more because 'cause I'm a little wheezy. So, yeah. Earmuff Stevie. We haven't said anything bad yet. Ooh, tickle in my throat. Alright, I gotta keep moving down here. Uh, equal. What I Hello, equal. I hope things are better. See, now I can't even laugh because I've gotta stop and take a deep I have to take a little breath. Your your screen name, oh my god. Oh, and hello, Clips. Uh, I'm still laughing. Oh, no. I was hoping the coughing was over with, but maybe not. There we go, that's better. Yeah, this is gonna be good. This is a good day. It's Curmudgeon's Day. I feel like maybe this day was made just for me. Definitely for Bob, Canton Bob. You guys all know, right? Select Board Bob. That's who that kinda reminds me of. Everybody else is having a good time, and Bob's just sitting there like a big old curmudgeon, and that's the most fun word ever. Uh, and Equal says, "Oh, wow, I didn't know. I have brought a rotten tomato if I only knew." Don't throw it. I don't wanna get caught in the crossfire, please. And what the hell is that? That's Bob, Darlene. That's Select Board Bob. I don't I don't think so, but, could be his brother, could be. Um, someone already took Ariel. I bet they did. Yeah, that sounds like it probably went quick. Somebody grabbed onto that. And hello, Ruby. Yeah, I'm on the mend, but, not quite there. I'm almost there. God, I felt so bad for OB last night. She sounded like a whole lot worse than I did, but I just kept going to sleep. I would take a nap, and then I'd wake up and do something, and then just take another nap. I knew something was wrong on, Monday because I went to sleep at a normal time. That never happens, never happens. What the hell is a curmudgeon? Well, I'm glad you asked, Darlene, because I am going to tell you, but I have to get my phone up because I don't have it in front of me. Got it on here. Oh, where'd it go? Well, see, I already lost it. Alright. The squirrels are gonna be loose. everywhere tonight. So I warn you guys, I'm gonna try really hard to stay focused and get this done so we don't have a part 3. But if we do have a part 3, I mean, why not? So, Curmudgeon's Day is celebrated in honor of all the cranky and fussy people in our lives. See, curmudgeon, right? Yeah, okay. Picture Oscar the Grouch, Mr. Mooney from the Lucy Show, the old lady at the cashier, uh, or your grandfather sitting on his porch, and blow them a kiss on this fun and interesting holiday. History of Curmudgeon's Day. The word curmudgeon is defined by the American Heritage Dictionary as an ill tempered, disagreeable, and quarrelsome person. Oh, that's not me. I'm pretty even tempered. Okay. We disagree with the curmudgeons in our lives the entire year, right? So we honor them on Curmudgeon's Day. And I think that's it. Yep, that's about it. So, if you know any cranky people, yeah, the guys are, like, out there going, "Get off my lawn." That's my favorite one. So, now see, Darlene, I've taught you I thought Darlene knew it wow. I've taught Darlene something, and I feel I can die now, which I very well might if I have another asthma attack. Just kidding. I'm fine, you guys. Equals, like, just imagine my face. Just put a wig here on, Bob, and yeah, that's what that's my l I hope I don't get frown lines like that because my mouth turns to oh god, now I'm really worried. I think I'm gonna go get some Botox. Scrooge, he's a curmudgeon, he's a grump, yeah. See, yeah. Normal for you, Toombs, is that but I don't know what I normal, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Maybe I should look that word up in the uh, American Heritage Dictionary because I sh I'm not that. My photo will not be next to that. Basically, that dude right there, right, Clips? Okay, we taught Darlene. Yay, that's the word of the day too. Equal says, "One of my security cameras is named Get Off My Lawn." I love it. Oh my god, when I actually had to live in town for a while, oh man, I get so mad. People start walking by, and if they loitered too long in front, I'd be, like, at my window, like, what are you doing out there?" Yeah, I became a little old lady, like, real fast because I was just, like, watching make sure they weren't trying to steal my Amazon packages. Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, so family members, it's like half my family fits right into that. Yep. This is he looks like a couple great uncles that I had. He looks like my Uncle Oscar a little bit, actually quite a bit. Tiff, get off my lawn. Hello, Tiff. Oh, uh-oh. I did, John. Oh, okay. And hello, Ernesto. You gonna be listening with your headphones on? Headphones, Ernesto. Maybe Ernesto's the one that we always have to say headphone or just tell her to put her headphones on. And Anne has come back again. We didn't frighten you off, did we, Anne? I'm so glad. So glad that you're here. And tonight we're gonna finish up. I hope we can finish up because my head is wow. I'm gonna do this. I gotta get through this, guys. I can do it. I know I can. So Darlene, so good you're starting to feel better. I think there's something nasty going around. I almost thought I had COVID again, and ugh, I did not want to get that. And I'm just glad it's not the flu because I do feel better. So, all right, let's. Oh, before I get started, I do have a sponsor now. I know everybody don't know if the mic net it probably didn't pick that up, but we have a sponsor, and I'm pretty damn proud. I'm pretty happy, guys. I couldn't be happier. So, let me pop that up if I can find it. Oh, that'd be horrible if I finally get a sponsor, and then I can't find their ad. Okay, hang on, here it is.
Tonight's stream is sponsored by Amazon Basics Home Crematorium. Simple, reliable, and designed for closure. Because grief should be convenient. Amazon Basics. Lowering the bar for eternity.
Yay! There we go. There's my sponsor. Um, where is my kitty? Yeah, evil kitty. She'll be over here in a little bit. Ernie's like, "Woohoo, congratulations." And it's like, "Oh. Oh my gosh." Yeah. Wait till the upgrade comes out. So, yeah. Uh, I've been wanting to have some of my own flair. I don't know if that's what it's called, um, but that's my flair now. So I hope nobody's offended by it, but hey, if we can't laugh at it, I mean, I have to laugh at it because, oh my goodness, yeah, you have to laugh, right? And equal wants one, nice DIY. Yeah, it is. We can do that at home. I think so, Clips. Check it out on Amazon. Only 299 or 299.99, which seems pretty damn cheap for a at-home crematorium. I don't know how big it is though. So I hope this isn't one of those things like, Temu or whatever it is that and it comes in the mail and it's like this big and the only thing you can burn in it is like a leaf. And only yeah, clips, right? Only one body part at a time. I gotta lean back. I'm getting right up into my mic tonight. So, all right. All right. Let's get situated here. So, all right. I don't end up with oh, and here I'm gonna give you guys a little eye candy before I get started while I pull up all my good stuff here real quick. Yeah. Hi, Liam. Oh. Sorry, guys. Hello, kittens. Welcome. Did you catch the at-home crematorium? Our sponsor wants to make sure that that gets out to everybody. Um, yeah, Amazon, that was a real hard get for me too, so enj enjoy it, and that is gonna require a lot of company. It probably comes with its own, cutting board, right? In a big sharp knife, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna pop down and Clip says she's got all the tools. And let's see, how much to rent a wood chipper though? I don't think it costs that much. What? Can't be more than like $100 to rent a wood chipper. Um, yeah, I should check. That'd be interesting. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna see if you can rent a woodchucker, woodchucker, wood chipper. Uh-oh, this is not boding well for tonight. Oh, I am. I got my body armor. I got chicken noodle soup. I got all kinds of good stuff, and it totally made me feel better yesterday. Ah, I know, Ernie. Isn't it? Isn't that a lot of plaid? This is how I imagine coming home at night, and, after a hard day's work, right? Here's my man, just all the plaid. I'm kidding. I It's too much plaid for me. Okay, hopefully your guys' retinas haven't detached, but let me pop done. This was when he was in Rob Roy. I'm almost 100% positive because, yeah, that looks like a lot of the tartan that they wore, but, oh goodness, I don't mind that photo. Too much clothing, though. I know, but look, you can see his ankles. Mm. I can see Liam's ankles. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna apologize, guys, I'm gonna be crazy, I think. The Sudafed. Woohoo! Ooh, I don't like anaphylactic shock. Darlene, I've been there twice. You stop it, Rubicon. He is not dating Pamela Anderson. I'm I already broke him up. No, they are really cute together, and I like that she's, like, all like a normal looking woman. now instead of all made up because she's actually really cute. And Tiff's like, "What plaid?" Oh, see, I'm glad I made you guys happy. I probably should take that off so that the guys will probably get all jealous. So here, I'll pop them up. All right. Thank you, Liam. You can go back to the bedroom now. He'll be waiting. Actually, I'm in my bedroom. So yeah. I don't think I don't think tartan. I gotta find a nice one that'll go with my crows and my all this. Yeah. Is there plaid? No. Uh-oh, danger. So oh damn it, Ernie. Why'd you do that? Now There was plaid, guys. Well, tartan. Let's call it. It's tartan. I'm gonna teach you guys a few things. Yes, tartan. And Darlene's like, I'll find one of Keanu. I will. I'll find one for you for tomorrow, Darlene. I'll bring or not tomorrow. I don't even know what tomorrow is. Sunday. I'll find I'll bring some eye candy every stream. Because I can't pull out Liam every stream. So, but I will tell you there will be a lot of hot Scots and kilts or not kilts. I mean, they'll have clothes on. Yeah. Ah, yeah, she is. I think she's really pretty without all that stuff on her face. I've been there, darling. It is not. Mm-mm. I have a mold allergy, and it's almost kill and a bee. If I get stung, I got my EpiPen is like always with me. She's got whoa, really? She better not give that to my boyfriend. Oh, him. Oh, was that from? Well, she was married to Tommy, right? Ugh. What a. Sorry, that wasn't nice of me to say. All right. Yeah, I need a massage. Like, I need somebody to massage my eyeballs because like when you got a little bit of a fever and you feel like your fluid in your eyeballs is like. I tried to make a noise. It sounded like I was slurping. I apologize. I will nip that out. I'm gonna edit that, or I won't. But I forgot. Yeah, but my eyes are a little burny, so hopefully that's gonna go. Oh, no, Ernie, we don't know. I don't I know which photo you're talking about because my mom thought that was hot, and I was like, it's not. It's scary. Like, I couldn't tell which was which was the bear. He was a hairy he was a hairy dude. I mean, I want a little hair, but that not where you can knit your own sweater out of your own hair. I just think that yeah, right? Tim's like, "No, not the hair." Uh, and Kitten says, "Ooh, I like William Dafoe." I do. I think he is incredibly handsome. I love his voice. See, I got a thing for voices. I mean, it's not so much but oh my god, if they have a nice voice, like or they're funny. Nice voice and funny, like Conan O'Brien, he's my hall pass. So, yeah, I know. 2 gingers should not get together. I think that's like a sign of the apocalypse. So it probably can never get that way. So, before he ever got into my shower, I mean, can you imagine the hair you would have in I mean, like, I get enough with my own hair. You get Bert in there well, Bert's dead, but can you imagine? Oh god, that just okay, the stream just took a dive. Let's go let's look at other things. Wait, how did that weirdo guy get I gotta go all the way back. There's Colonel Sanders. Alright, here she is. I'm gonna pop her up. Sorry, guys. I had to one more time I had to look at him. Alright. Whoop, whoop, there we go. I changed her picture. What do you guys think? I made her look a little she looks a little more evil in this one. I like it. Alright, I'm gonna get down here, it was a political statement, Bert's photo was? 'Cause he was as hairy as the b oh, we're was he on a was he on a polar bear? Was it, like, "Don't kill the polar bears"? I just remember my mom was like, "Oh, he's so hot," and I'm like, "Oh, crikey, no, no, not on any he's too much hair for me." First ever male centerfold. They could've there's so many more out there they could have picked. Clint Eastwood, isn't he around in that wasn't he around then too? I'd pay to see Clint back then. I always thought he was pretty handsome, like Rawhide Clint Eastwood. Yep, okay. We're getting really I'm getting way off topic. I'm gonna post your yeah, I agree. This is why we all get along so well. We all have, pretty similar tastes. Which means we couldn't go, like, on, like, a manhunt together or anything because 'cause we'd all get in a fight over, like, the one guy that yeah. Right, okay, my inhaler is over there. I need Tansy to bring it to me. Um, oh, gosh, I might have to hit that here in a second. I forget what movie it was that he had to wear a prosthetic or stunt double because the director thought You guys get me in trouble. You know that? You guys get me into trouble. I mean, it's freaking hilarious, but you get me into trouble. Actually, I haven't gotten in trouble yet. It's not made for kids. Ah, all right, I'm gonna do this, guys. I am. I'm getting around to the story. Oh, nobody's gonna believe that's real. Yeah. Ah, okay, you know what? I'm gonna Photoshop myself in that 'cause that looks like some Christmas tartan right there, and be just Liam and I'll just be laying there. Maybe I'll get my little kilt dress on and, oh, he would have just made such a good couple if he was about, what, 50 years younger. Oh, goodness. Michael Wincott has the deepest, sexiest voice. He played the bad guy. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my god, yes. His voice. Mm, yes. Agreed. Yes. Yeah, what's your thirsty Yeah, his yeah, okay, girls, we gotta put this away. I don't have any water. I gotta shh, I'm gonna hose us all down. Alright, guys. Oh my god. Oh, that was squeaky. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So, I gotta pull up my notes here. So, we're back to Madame Delphine LaLaurie, and I don't know why that sounds so strange coming out of my mouth. I think it's the Sudafed. But we left off at the time of the just before the fire starts, and I'll give you guys just a little I'm just gonna do, like, a real quick run through. So if I go too fast, you guys have I'll stop at the end of it. So if you guys have a question because I go too fast, I don't think I'm gonna go too fast just because of the stuff I'm on. I feel like I'm going fast, but I don't think I am. I'm going in slow motion. Pretty much, yeah. Um Guys, hello, gutters. Welcome. All right. Are we? Whew, you girls are like you girls, not me. I think I started this. All right, here we go. Oh, how did I do that last time? Didn't I throw? I think I did it like this. Yeah, we'll make me tiny because I think my eyes are going to be turning red here pretty soon. Um, so let me. I think that works pretty well. So here is I found another photo of our lady, our madame. All right, here we go, guys. So just a little catch me up, just in case somebody didn't watch part one. You still have to go back and watch part 1, but I'll just give you a little I'm gonna squish it all together right here. So, Delphine McCarty, she was born 1787, so a really long time ago. She was born into one of New Orleans' established Creole families. She grew up very firmly within the city's white elite. Her family was wealthy, connected, and very much insulated in the social standing. She would not have associated with anyone outside of that social class. So, she was just kinda picture a spoiled little princess is probably about what she was. So, her family's wealthy, she pretty much got to do what she wanted to do. And by the time she married Doctor Louis LaLaurie in 1825, she'd already been married twice and widowed twice. And through marriage and inheritance, when her mother passed away, she was in control of significant property, like, lots of, like, she owned several plantations, land, uh, and a townhouse, and she had a whole lot of money, and she also had a lot of enslaved labor. The LaLauries, when they married, they bought a residence that was partially finished, and they bought the residence is at 1140 Royal Street, which is the house that we call L the LaLaurie Mansion, and that was completed in 1832, and it was a large two-story townhome, and it was probably had a brick facade. So and this was right in the heart of the French Quarter. And like many affluent homes of the period, it relied on enslaved people for their domestic labor. So cooking, cleaning, answering the door, all of those things would have been done by enslaved people. Now, Dr. Louis LaLaurie, he was a trained physician. He trained and was educated in France and then came to Louisiana. And they think maybe he may have had, like, a professional base out of out of the home there, the LaLaurie mansion, but there's nothing to say he did, nothing to say he didn't, but he probably did. But he was also very frequently away from home. Pardon me. And what distinguishes Madame LaLaurie in the historic record before the fire is not a single event, but there's a pattern of some documented concern. So by the late 1820s, after her marriage to LaLaurie, so this is after 1825, there were a lot of complaints about her treatment of her enslaved people. She People had turned her into the authorities, and these weren't just rumors. At least one formal legal action had been taken, and that had resulted in her paying fines and the temporary removal of the enslaved individuals from her custody. So this tells us that her contemporaries, so all the other slaveholders in town and on the plantations, they actually believed her behavior exceeded what was legally tolerated, even in a really brutal slave system. So she was a step above what was already an awful situation. The consequences, though, for her actions for treating her slaves so horribly, they were pretty limited. Through She could, sell her slaves to somebody else, they could sell it to somebody else, and then she would get control back because they would just sort of play it like sort of like money laundering, but with slaves. And eventually, these slaves would get returned back to her. And this wasn't illegal. It wasn't unusual either. A lot of the wealthy slaveholders did this to circumvent any penalties. It it's a messed up system. And there's no evidence that she was ever imprisoned or barred from ownership or socially ostracized prior to 1834. And we really don't know what her husband, Dr. LaLaurie's role was. It's not clear. There's no sources really that the only thing that shows up is that he was spending a lot of time in Plaquemines Parish, but no one knows what he was doing there. Was he practicing medicine? Did he have, a concubine there, which was pretty typical for a lot of the wealthy men in his society. So they there's they have no clue what he was doing out there. A lot of authors have speculated, but that's all it is because there's no proof. They don't know if he was involved in any of the mistreatment of the slaves. Maybe he was ignorant of it, or maybe he just would get tired of it and then withdraw. Like, he would just leave, go someplace else for a while, and eventually come back because she's the one with all the money. Dr. LaLaurie had nothing. So he pretty much either had to go out if he wanted to leave her, he was gonna have to go out on his own with nothing, and I think he liked having the money, so he wasn't gonna be leaving her. Um, but there's nothing to say that he knew or didn't know that he participated in any of this harsh treatment, but we do know that she couldn't have done this by herself. She was a very small, petite lady. And most of these enslaved people, especially the men, there's no way she could have done it by herself. So she either had another enslaved individual help her or her husband helped her, but it's not clear. So we can't really say who. Yeah, I just won't say anything. So by the early 1830s, Madame's reputation, even though it was a little uneasy, it was still intact, and she continued to appear in public. She still hosted these lavish bleh, I need something to drink, hang on, guys. Ooh, lavish social gatherings, huge parties. She was part of New Orleans' upper social circles, and of all the people in that society that she frequented, no one ever described her as a monster or had anything bad to say about her. And then pre-fire, there's no accounts that anybody ever, witnessed any medical experiments or murders or torture chambers going on at the LaLaurie mansion. Those things all emerged after the fire, and primarily, a lot of that came up much, much later, which I'll talk about in part 2 here. So, now we're to the eve of April 10th, 1834, and I am going to go down here, and then I'm gonna pop over into chat real quick. I'm just gonna get to where I need to be. Um, alright, here we go. Alright, I'm gonna pop over and see you guys just for a second. So, do you guys have any questions about what we covered last time? Where did I leave off? Uh, I need to make sure I should start where I leave off. Let's see. There we go. Um, Clips, I end up singing Total Eclipse of the Heart. I do too, Gutters, when I see your name. Yeah, we're all a bunch of thirsty girls. Yeah, Darlene, the red eyes, oh, it's you got I put my filter on tonight because my nose is, like, very red and sore. I don't look too bad, but, ugh. And Bonnie Tyler has entered the chat. Um, yeah, so she was a rich lady, sh I mean, she would have just done whatever, but she was just like every other woman of that time in her social circle. Uh, she was one of 2 children in a very wealthy family. She would have probably and she was the only daughter, so there was her brother and her, and, yeah, she probably got whatever she wanted, and she was probably allowed to run buck wild, do whatever she wanted to a certain degree. Uh, and we don't really know a whole lot about, like, how her parents treated their enslaved people. We know the French treated their enslaved people maybe a little better than what the Americans did, but they still had enslaved people, and they would beat them still. So, this is what she grew up around. This would have just been, I mean, it sucks, but that's how it was. It wasn't good in the French system, the Spanish system, or the American system. It was all brutal. It was all control and very sad. I'll leave it there right now because I'm out of breath. Um, and Tiff says, or they were jealous arseholes and they just wanted to get her in trouble. And that too. Especially other women, right? Well, hello, Christine. Welcome. Uh, let's see. Oh, you came from TFs. Well, and even more special welcome then. No, everybody's all right. Um, pop down. Somebody wanted to take her down a peg. It wouldn't have, yeah. Americans, oh, like American English. That's probably what I'm speaking right now. It's horrible. All right, because my brain is on Sudafed, guys. So I apologize. And I bought this Burt Bees lip oil. I love this stuff. It's keeping my lips really hydrated as I feel like I'm drying up. Oh, here's another yawn. All right, here we go. Now, this is just a representation of the house fire. We're not really sure. I did post a photo last time. I forgot to put it in the slideshow, but it was a two-story residence. It may have, it was supposed to have some sort of attic space up above, like up above the kitchens, which the kitchens probably were bit of a bit separated from the actual house, which was pretty typical back then. Like the kitchen could have been in the basement, but most of the time it was just a separate, I want to say, yeah, like a separate building. And then there might have been slave quarters on top of that for your domestic staff. So keep that in mind because that's going to be, and that's going to come up next. Oof, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Oop, I went too far. Okay. All right. So no questions. Everybody's with. Okay, good. Because I was afraid of questions. All right. So now we're at the fire. And we're on the morning of April 10th, 1834. And it's in the morning. Morning, not early morning, but sometime before noon. They didn't really give an exact time, but a fire breaks out at the LaLaurie residence on Royal Street. Now, contemporary accounts agree. Everyone agrees that the fire originated in a rear portion of the house near the kitchen, and almost immediately the city officials and neighbors responded. And this is because New Orleans was it they had had a lot of fires. So when there was one, they just boom. They got right on it, right? And they did get the fire, it was brought under control before the building was completely destroyed. But during the efforts to extinguish the fire, authorities discovered enslaved individuals who had been confined in the house. And what they observed was considered shocking even by the standards of their time. And that reaction is pretty significant considering New Orleans was a slaveholding city, and many of these people probably owned slaves themselves. And violence was pretty violence against enslaved people was very common, and it was pretty much ignored. So, for the officials and witnesses to react and document their outrage, this should suggest to us that what they saw was perceived as extreme, even given all this context. Like, this was above and beyond what any of them would have done or had seen. So, uh-oh, I lost my spot here. So, one thing that did happen, so as the alarm was raised, everybody shows up, and hang on, I gotta scroll down a little bit here. So, fire crews, city officials arrived, and they're trying to get into the house. But Dr. Louis LaLaurie, he stood against them, and he was not gonna let them in the house. And they knew these authorities, they knew that there were enslaved individuals confined in the house, and Dr. LaLaurie was not gonna let them pass. He refused to provide the keys to the house, and eventually, they had to break down the doors in order to get into, and this was in the kitchen area, and this delayed response and the resistance to the response by Dr. LaLaurie, this was all documented multiple times. So when they did finally get access to the kitchen, they go upstairs, like, there was living quarters above the kitchen. Well, not living quarters, or just space above the kitchen. They found 7 enslaved individuals. They were locked inside this room, and the eyewitness testimony, this comes from reporters and the city officials that were there at the time. Some of these enslaved individuals were suspended by their neck. Okay, trigger warning, trigger warning. They were suspended by their neck, their limbs were stretched out, and they had been confined for months, and they'd been kept alive just barely, just to prolong their suffering, so it was pretty sadistic. And the elderly woman that was found in the kitchen, she admitted to setting the fire herself, and this is probably the cook, is usually what who it's attributed to, and she said that she wanted to end the suffering or die in the flames. So she was finished with it, and she just decided, "Hey, we're either gonna get out of here or we're gonna die. Either way, it's gonna be over." But immediately, the victims were taken to the I hope I'm saying this right, cabildo, and the survivors moved into the city jail, which is what the cabildo is. It's the city jail for protection from their owner. So you can imagine people are going to see them. They're gonna I mean, like, 2,000 people show up to see these enslaved people, to see their wounds, their injuries. This is I think this is still there. So and it's now part of the Louisiana State Museum, but this served as, also as City Hall too. Yeah, right, Darlene, yeah, get attention, get it over with. And I don't blame her. And a lot of accounts say that this woman was chained to the stove, but there was nothing in the reports at that time to say that she had been, but she was the only person there, and she was prepping food and in the kitchen, so it's pretty safe to say that, yes, she was the cook, but other than that, we can't since nobody actually I think they would've made note of that, like, since they made very detailed notes of how they found the 7 enslaved people, like, what their conditions were. I think if she had been chained or tied to the stove, they probably would have made note of that too. I mean, they didn't leave, like, anything out, right? They put it all in there to a pretty gruesome detail. And, yeah, Darlene, it's like a small building by the house, but not quite attached, so um, there would have been a little courtyard, right, that they would have walked through. And since it's so I mean, it's not like it snows down there, right? And hello, Sunnyside. Welcome. Yes, we're doing some history and some ghost stuff too. Okay, so here we go. I'll go on to here are some of the eyewitness accounts. And these men worked for a few of the newspapers that were active in New Orleans at the time. One man was J.C. du Saint Roman or wait, sorry, I read that wrong. J.C. Saint Rome, and he was with the Louisiana Courier, and he reported that he had seen the victims himself, that one of these men had a hole in his head. He was covered in scars and earmuffs, guys, but his flesh had worms crawling on it, and I think the worms are probably I'm gonna say they're probably maggots. Since it is hot there, fly blows, that's what I'm gonna guess when he said worms, um, and he said that even just writing about it caused him to shudder, and yeah, that kinda I told you guys my maggot thing, I do not like. That's the one thing that does kinda gross me out, and yeah, and can you imagine this is 1834, right? This they probably do not see this stuff ever. The other reporter is Jerome Bayon, and he was with the New Orleans Bee, and as in bee. He said the details were almost unbelievable, but he confirmed that the victims were chained and that it appeared that they'd only been fed meals of porridge and water, which was insufficient for them to survive. And the public was allowed to see what the restraints were. There were iron collars that had spikes. There were pinchers, and I'm not sure what they mean by pinchers. I'm kind of thinking like like some little yeah, like um yeah, I don't know. I don't wanna know what they were doing with it. Um, and then other tools described as impossible to describe, and 2,000 people reportedly came to see the victims. So, I named 2 of the newspapers that covered the fire and the events after the fire. The Louisiana Courier, which was a French they published in both French and English, and they had a large Creole readership. So the Creoles would have been the natives, the families that had been there since the beginning, like Madame Delphine, her family, the McCartys, were a Creole family. The other one is the New Orleans Bee. They also published both in French and English, and they were also Creole readership. Now, the other newspaper was the Louisiana Advertiser. Now, this one was just published in English, and this was for the Americans because Louisiana was an American territory at this point. And oddly enough, the Creole papers, they were a lot harsher on Madame LaLaurie than the American. And the Creole papers were, I mean, they emphasized their moral outrage, the shock of the discovery, and they wanted the household to take responsibility for these people. I see you guys hear the chat, yeah. Maggots. Oh, I know. Heebie-jeebies. Ooh, my skin kinda see, yep, I just gave myself the shivers from that. And so the American newspapers essentially they just reported the event, but any moral, condemnation, they didn't really do any of that. They just focused on the events, and they didn't pass any judgment. So, all this together, it's really it's pretty significant to see how the American audience took it as, "Okay, this is what happened. There was a fire. There were 7 slaves. This is what they look like." But then you have the Creole paper that are they're outraged, and this is one of their own. But there also is a difference between the 2, right? The American slaveholders, we know the American slave laws were awful. Like, they could do essentially they could they could murder their slaves and not be held accountable for it. Under the Creole, that they had the French and then they had the Spanish, which, you know, we talked about it in the last episode, was they they didn't want you weren't supposed to beat them till they died. Like, they did have certain rules. So, to go beyond that would cause, your contemporaries to be outraged. So that's what's going on here. And these 2 newspapers, the New Orleans Bee and the Louisiana Courier, they pushed and pushed because they didn't stop reporting. They kept pushing the facts, and I mean, bravo for them. And they wanted action, and that's all they reported on. There was just like, "Something has to be done." It was the Louisiana Courier that urged that a grand jury be set up to look into the situation and to hold, Madame LaLaurie accountable, or actually to hold the household accountable. And the New Orleans Bee, which is another French paper, called LaLaurie a fury escaped from hell and compared her to Lucrezia Borgia. And they expressed confidence that she would be prosecuted. So they thought for sure that she was gonna there was gonna be justice for these crimes. And the Louisiana, Advertiser, that's our American newspaper, um, they agreed that justice should be done, just because the scale of the fire, it was a big fire. Yes, there was brutality. Yeah, there's public outrage, but to them, it was just another local event. So to them, they sort of ignored a lot of the moral and legal and social issues that the 2 French papers were really, I mean, they were very hyper focused on it, which they should be, and the American paper should have been too, but different you have 2 different 2 different ways both these groups treated their slaves. Alright, let me look over here real quick. I'm gonna look over. I saw heebie-jeebies with yeah, I'm gonna keep going, and it's sick. I just all of it's sick to me. I just yeah. I have to wet my whistle there. Woo! I gotta keep hydrated so I can get better. Um, and kittens yeah, so they went from being tortured and then they became a sideshow. So they're sitting here in jail for their protection because if they would have released them so Madame LaLaurie, she's she's not gone yet. She's still right? She's still there. She has family, she has uncles, cousins. Who knew what would happen? They didn't know if somebody would come, maybe take these enslaved people back and do away with them, so there was no evidence of any wrongdoing. So that's why essentially they were locked up. So here they went from being locked up in this torture chamber above the kitchens to the city jail, where they were locked up and and spied at. People are just looking at them and their injuries. They were being treated though, so I can add that they were at least being treated for their wounds. Sorry guys, I'm still coughing. None of them had any moral compass. Well, they didn't uh, uh, slave their slaves were no more than, livestock to them. They didn't see them as human. So and then for them to I just think it's just so the differences between the Creole established Creole families, right? And then the Americans, as we know the American South and how plantations were run, how brutal they were. Not I could okay. I'll spend an hour just talking on that. Back when journalists pretend to stay unbiased. Yeah, they pretended, but and this needed to be brought out to light. Yeah. This is important things in history, right? This is yeah, we need to learn from these things. Um, is it Luc I also, always thought it was pronounced Lucretia. I don't know, did I say it wrong? I probably did. Guys, I say, um, yeah. Oh, thank you, Ernie. I'm trying. I'm getting there. I don't feel like death anymore. Toombs is like coughing my way to my coffin. Yeah, Darlene, yeah, they were no better than livestock, and that's how they treated them. Alright, yeah, after this, I'm going to, get a big old thing of broth. Um, I have chicken noodle soup, I end up just eating the chicken, oops, I went too far. I end up just drinking the broth out of it, and I usually don't eat all the noodles. But, okay, so now we're on to the legal action. Now the authorities, they called for the grand jury to review the case, and newspaper editors, especially the Creole press every time I say that word, it's starting to sound less less right. But the Creole press, they urged the grand jury to act swiftly. And reports indicate that a preliminary investigation began almost immediately, including testimony from the witnesses who had seen the victims and from the elderly enslaved woman who admitted to setting the fire. So, right off, they had spoken to the victims, they spoke to witnesses who had seen the victims, and also the enslaved woman who set the fire. But the officials were facing a pretty complex situation here. The LaLauries were part of the city's wealthy elite, and there really was no precedent for prosecuting a prominent household for the confinement and abuse of enslaved people, even under extreme conditions. Like, this didn't happen at all. As I said before, if you were caught treating your slaves in not such a great way, usually you were fined. They took your slaves away from you for a little while, and then you ended up getting them back at some point. So it's just like a little kid, you take their toy away from them as punishment, and then you just give it back to them, right? It makes no sense to me, but that's what they did. And now the authorities, they were being watched. The public, the editors of the newspapers. So the citizens of New Orleans, they had seen, they witnessed these victims. The newspapers were documenting it. So even at the people who didn't get to see the victims, they'd heard about it. And public outrage by, the conditions that were found in the house, and the fact that the access to the house required that they break down the doors, and that there was absolutely no question at all that these victims had been confined against their will just because of the way they were found. So the municipal authorities, together with the grand jury, began piling records, eyewitness statements, physical evidence. At this time, the goal was just documentation and protection, so protecting those 7 enslaved people rather than prosecution. So legal and social norms of this time, they made formal charges against a wealthy, well-connected household pretty darn difficult to pursue. Now, the city acted to remove and protect the victims, but it's basically all they did. And the cabildo became the center of everything. The grand jury, I think that's where the grand jury said. Messed up my notes right here. The grand jury investigation. Oh, hang on. I forgot a part right there. Oh, right here. Okay, so the grand jury investigation was urged, but the legal process was complicated because of wealth and social status of the people being accused. And that is where I am going to leave right now, because we're going to go back to Madame LaLaurie and her family and what they did right after the fire. All right. Let's see. So we're still April 10th, 1834. Delphine LaLaurie, she fled New Orleans. And the accounts of the time describe her escaping by carriage along what is called the Bayou Road to Lake Pontchartrain. And she crossed over the lake to Mandyville, and I think it's St. Tammany Parish, possibly alone or with her family. Now, they stayed with her several weeks in Mandyville, and they stayed there with Delphine's niece and her husband. They The 7-year-old son, Jean-Louis, he was probably with them, but they're not sure where the 2 adult daughters, Pauline and Laurie Blanc, were at the time. They're not sure if they were with, their mother and stepfather, but, they could have been, or maybe they were safely someplace else. Um, their Delphine's, 19-year-old son, Paulin, he was away at Yale University at the time. Alright. So, as they're they're not really in hiding, but April 21st, Delphine, she grants power of attorney to her son-in-law, Placid? That's such a I think I said something else, and no, I said Placid, Forstall, and then Doctor Louis LaLaurie, he granted power of attorney to Auguste Delassus, I think that's how you pronounce it, and he was another son-in-law of Delphine's. Placid Forstall was married to oh, shoot, I already forgot which daughter was married to which of these guys, but anyway, they're her son-in-laws, and these 2 the 2 son-in-laws, they made their way, got back to New Orleans as quick as they could. They took these documents and they had them registered as of uh, April 30th, and they didn't use the family's usual notaries, and they're not sure why. I don't know, maybe they thought somebody would be alerted to it, but they used a different notary for the process than they normally would have. But as agents to the LaLauries, they could sell or rent property, and they could sell or hire out enslaved people, and they were to pay debts and taxes. So there was nothing, no provisions were made for emancipation of any of the enslaved people. And this included the coachman who reportedly saved Delphine. So to get her out of New Orleans, which you can imagine, right, was pretty crazy at the time. There's this fire, there's people like outraged, disgusted by what's going on. And the story is her coachman snuck her out. And that's how she was able to escape. Now, they don't say exactly if her husband was with her or the son was with her, but somehow, at least she got there, which, right, the public was going to want, they were going to want some blood. And he pretty much saved her life, but she still didn't care. She didn't emancipate him. He was still a slave. So at this time, there was a lot of rumors that were kind of spreading. Some people thought she never left Louisiana at all, and they thought she maybe lived quietly out on this bayou road, or she was in seclusion over across Lake Pontchartrain. Another one was that she fled to Mobile and then to New York and then on to Europe. And then there were some pretty sensational claims because her former husband, Blanc, was affiliated, right, with some pirates. So they thought maybe she was taken away by pirates to a safe location. But what really happened was Delphine and her husband and their 7-year-old son, they did go to Mobile and then traveled to New York City, and July 24th, 1835, they got on a ship and they went to France. And this was verified. There was a gentleman on board who knew her and actually wrote back and a pretty detailed letter saying that people knew who she was and she was being ostracized on the boat, and she could be seen frequently crying, and Dr. LaLaurie was publicly maintaining loyalty to his wife. And let's see, even though he didn't see their 7-year-old son, it's assumed that he was with them, but they weren't gonna be walking around with their kid on the ship, so but now back in New Orleans, uh, there was no criminal trial for the murder or for the torture because Madame LaLaurie was not present, and in order for them to press formal charges against her, she had to be there. So, under the legal system, prosecuting an absent defendant Especially a wealthy woman with extensive social connections, it was highly unlikely it wasn't gonna happen. So, there is no surviving record of any indictment being completed before her departure or after her departure. And so without the accused present, the legal process effectively was stalled. So there were no consequences, no legal consequences for Madame LaLaurie in this situation. However, the citizens, they were pretty pissed off. And in they sort of formed a mob and they went to what was left. So the fire hadn't completely burned the mansion, but what the fire didn't get, this angry mob pretty much destroyed the rest of it. So there really wasn't they took bricks and stone and burned furniture, they just totally destroyed the place. Since she wasn't going to face any criminal charges, they were gonna make sure she wasn't gonna have anything to come back to if she ever did. Um, and her social standing did collapse. Like, there was no coming back from this. She was not gonna be coming back to sus sorry, another drink. She wasn't coming back to society after that. And I'm gonna go down. I've got a lot of notes. There's 30 pages here, guys, but so the only thing that does survive, since there was no indictment or prosecution, they do have the paperwork does survive. There was an official inspection of the house, and there's the eyewitness testimony statements. There was medical observation of the victims, and then there was a coroner's inquest that was conducted, just to see how something about how the fire and the condition it related to the fire and the conditions found in the home. I think I had something else there, but I forgot to put it down. So yeah, the newspapers were outraged, the citizens were outraged, and they understood what was uncovered might not result in meaningful justice, but she didn't escape it altogether. Um, because yeah, she wasn't going to be coming back, and she wasn't going to be assuming her life again. She wouldn't have that beautiful house in the French Quarter any longer. And her life in France in the beginning wasn't so great either. She and Louis went to, Doctor LaLaurie's hometown, and even though his family accepted her there, and they were polite to her, they were really cold to her as well. And they lived in this small, little unfurnished house that Louis had inherited from his presumed dead brother. So he had an older brother who had gone off on his travels, and he hadn't been heard from in quite some time. So he was declared dead. Louis got his home, but his sisters got all the furniture. So Delphine's pretty darn upset. She's got this tiny house. She's barely got any furniture. She doesn't have linens. Like, she is definitely not living her good life anymore. And the marriage between Louis and Delphine, it was already not that great. It got even worse during this time, and her son-in-law, Delassus, described his mother-in-law, Delphine, at this time as being miserable and humiliated, and that Louis, so Doctor LaLaurie, was cruel and dismissive towards her. And, I have some do you guys wanna know about the enslaved people? I'll just go over this real quick. Uh, At the time of the fire, she owned 30 enslaved people. Her agents, her son-in-laws, sold 11 of those individuals between 1834, 1836. One of them was the coachman that helped save her life. Good news for him, he did have multiple owners, but finally he ended up in the I believe it was, a pair of lawyers, excuse me, a pair of lawyers that were his last owners, and in 1849, he was emancipated, and they praised him for his good conduct. So he was freed by 1849, but he was a pretty old man. I think he was already in his 70s by then. And the other 19 enslaved people, there's no accounting for them. They could have died. They may have been dispersed out to other family members, other plantations, or they could have escaped. So they're not sure. And that's a lot of enslaved people to just go missing. And I was looking through all of the documentation, like, that is available on ancestry.com. New Orleans, they have meticulous, uh, slave records. Who sold who owned who. It is crazy. So, the fact that none these 19 slaves did not show up on any of these registers it's really unusual, and I think that's kinda I don't know. It's suspicious to me. And the author of this book that I'm reading and well, I read, she she kinda I think she was kinda hinting that she thought something like maybe they got rid of them somehow so that there wouldn't be, uh, any more witnesses, but again, that's speculation. And the LaLaurie mansion or whatever what was left of it, so the property that this rubble heap sat on, that sold in 1837. Yeah, Tiff, right? Sus and nefarious. I have a gut feeling that they were disposed of, and not in a very nice way, but just speculation. So the massive rubble pile that was left over of the mansion, 1837, it was sold for $14,000, and this was a whole lot less money than what, um Madame Delphine had paid for it, and that was because mostly because, yeah, this house there's nothing left of it, right? This house is demolished, and also the notoriety, nobody really was gonna pay top dollar for some place that had all this going on, right? So, we know Delphine I know when I first went to New Orleans, the first time I went down there and the first ghost tour went on, they said, "We don't know what happened to Del she escaped in the night." So, the fire was at night in this telling of the story, the first story I heard. She escaped at night and set sail to France, never to be seen again. But that's not true. Uh, she actually ended up in Paris, and she lived very comfortably. And the reports, and even in Paris, she was socially accepted there. She went to the opera, she had a social circle. It's crazy. But if she would have come back to New Orleans, that wouldn't have that wouldn't have been the case. And so it's a pretty big contrast between this peaceful life that she's living in Paris and all this suffering and outrage that she left behind in New Orleans, and all these citizens that are just outraged and condemning her on this other continent. So by the by 1835, the LaLauries, they're in Paris, and I'll pop up there. This is where they lived, which This doesn't look too bad. This looks pretty nice. This is way nicer than where I live. But this is I'm not gonna try should I think it's Boulevard. Yeah, I'm not gonna butcher that, guys. I know, Darlene. Yeah. I would. It's almost like she either didn't accept what she did or she didn't see what she had done as wrong, or a combination of both. I've been sort of wondering if she maybe had some sort of mental illness going on, but, um, yeah. I mean, we know she was having marital troubles, which could have pushed her to be a little crazy, but, by all accounts, when she was in Paris, everyone liked her. She wrote very nice letters back home to her goddaughter and her nieces, to her 2 daughters that still lived in New Orleans. So, it's just, like, 2 polar opposite people of who she is, like, who this woman who beat and tortured her slaves, and then this when it came to her family and everybody else, she was super she was almost sweet, almost, I say. I don't think she would have ever been classified as sweet, but she was nice enough, right? Yeah. I'm shocked that she was accepted too, and I'm sure they knew what happened to her. I mean, Paris, they would have known. There's no doubt that they knew. Personality disorder, perhaps? Yeah, I think so too. Something's not right with her, but also too, right, where the environment she's raised in. This was how she's probably this may have been how she's witnessed slaves being treated. Like, this might have just been what she thought was normal, or she could have had something wrong up top, but there was no reports of yeah, Darlene, I'm disgusted too, that I think she yeah. And hello, Lou, welcome. And the nanner is down. Ernie, yay! Alright, I got one more photo of this absolutely beautiful neighborhood where Delphine lived with her son, and the 2 daughters did eventually pardon me, guys. Pauline and Lori, they joined her sometime between 1835, 1836, and her daughter, Borgia, who was her first daughter by Mr. Lopez, and oh, she's married to DeLossus. I made a note there, but I didn't make it up above. Okay. They actually visited pretty often for the time period, which was kinda blew my mind a little bit because I thought it took a really long time to get from point A to point B, but they visited pretty darn frequently, by the records. So, yeah, um, unfortunately, even though Delphine was pretty safe in Paris, like, she was accepted, everything was good there. Her son, who was going to Yale, it wasn't so great for him. Because at Yale, people learned about his mother, and he was pretty much forced to leave. And then by 1838, he was living with his mom in Paris as well. So she's got her 2 daughters, 2 adult daughters, and uh, her adult son, and then her 7-year-old son, and then her husband, who I'm pretty sure he probably wasn't working. Her house husband. Is that what they call it? Yeah, her house husband. Ugh, I gotta sit up here. And all of these people are living off Delphine's money, what is left right, that her 2 son-in-laws are managing for her back in New Orleans. Now, Dr. LaLaurie, at some point, he leaves. Not sure why, if he and Delphine finally just broke, their relationship just reached an end, but he took off and went to Cuba, and he lived in Havana, and now I have that song in my head. Um, the relationship with his father wasn't so great, and, when his father had made a new will in 1840, he disinherited his son, his only son, surviving son, entirely disinherited him. So when he died in 1842, that's when we know Louis was living in Havana, because it was stated in his will record that he had been notified of his father's death. And we don't know what he was doing in Havana, maybe learning how to salsa, I don't know. I don't know if he was being a doctor. He did write to one of the son-in-laws, I think it was DeLossus, that asked him if he could get his medical journals and books, from one of the plantation homes that he had lived at with Delphine, and have them shipped to him in Havana, but that was about it. So I don't know if they don't know if he was being a doctor there. Did he have another wife there? I don't know what that big boom was that just crashed out there. You okay? I hope everybody's okay out there. Um, but he died in 1863, and he's buried there at Espada Cemetery, and that's the last of him. So nobody knows what he was up to. I have some suspicions on Dr. LaLaurie. I don't know. I don't really trust him. I don't know. What do you guys think about him? I was gonna ask you guys, from what we know, I mean, we don't have a lot of facts on him. We don't even know what the guy looked like. Like, there's no physical descriptions really that say, like, he had a big nose, or, he was a tall guy, or any of that. Like, there's nothing. Uh, no portrait, nothing of that. Um, if there was, it didn't survive. So I I'm a little suspect of him, even though a lot of people seem to like, most of the people I was reading were like, "Oh, he was taking off and going, he was leaving her in New Orleans and going off because he didn't like her treatment of the slaves." And I'm kind of wondering, I don't know. Like I said, she could not have done that by herself. Somebody had to have helped her, and I don't know. He seems kinda shifty in the fact that, one of the one son-in-law said he was being very cruel to her. So I wonder if there was some sort of physical abuse or something going on with her that I don't know. It's a complicated, there's so many things you don't know. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors, right? Ernie's like, "Yeah, he was learning to salsa." Salsa. Um, Tiff is having a stroke. Uh-oh. Tiff? Uh-oh. She's singing Wet Dream, We Dream Tomato. I just have that Havana song in my head now. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get rid of it. Um, right, Darlene? Yeah, I feel bad for their kids too. I will let you guys know what happened, and it I think it's kinda sad because uh, it's not their fault that their mother was like this. They probably witnessed this stuff going on in the household, so you don't know what that psychologically did to them. It could have messed them up, especially the youngest son, the 7-year-old. It breaks my heart thinking of him. Tiff thinks he just gave up. I think he skipped out because I think he thought maybe they would come get her at some point, right? Like, like, come arrest her in Paris and that she would be prosecuted. And I'm wondering if he took off thinking, "I'm gonna go hide in Cuba where" right? But I would have gone someplace even further. I wouldn't have gone back towards the trouble. I would have gone further away from the trouble, but something's just not right with him. Uh, that his father cut him off completely just for marrying Delphine, even though she's older, was substantially older than him. She had a lot of money. I mean, that should have made his dad pretty happy, but, he also I guess he did bring her home and they had all that crap going on, so probably wasn't too proud of him for that, right? Yeah, Sonny, I agree. Nope, nope, nope. I wouldn't trust him. I don't trust the doctor. Doc was a player. I think he probably found another he probably sugar mama down in Cuba, right? Like, she probably had a sugar plantation, like anyway, okay, I'm sorry. Um, Cruel was cruel. Yeah. Uh, if if her son-in-law said he was being cruel to her, it was probably pretty significant, even just to say that, right? Like, to make a note of it and that record survived of him saying that. It's scary. And Anne says, "I think he was part of the cruel treatment." I agree. I think he was too. And no matter what, it's just and Darlene, I don't know what extradition laws, were back then. Louisiana was a US territory at that point, so I wonder if she was safe in Paris, but like I said, they couldn't prosecute her because she wasn't there. So it seems to me if they wanted to prosecute her, they could have just had somebody go get her, right? And bring her to, because that's what we do now. If we're looking on a manhunt for somebody, we just go there and collect them if we have an extradition policy with them, right? But she she managed to not um yeah, she managed to escape all of that. And this is the house that she lived in when she resided in Paris. It's still there. And as you can see, it's very nice. So she wasn't slumming it by any degree, any standard. This is nice. And this is pretty much where she lived with her adult children. Pauline, Lori, Paulin, the son, and then, well, it doesn't say Jean-Louis, but I'm sure Jean-Louis lived there too. So he was the youngest one. Uh, I miss some, but all people from back then are crazy. Different times. Yeah, it's so we right, we can't judge them on what, uh we look back and we're like, "Oh god, these people were nuts," but that was at some point, somebody's gonna look back at us and go, "Oh my god, these people were crazy. How did they not know what" right? It's gonna happen to us too. Another society 100 years in the future is gonna look at us and think we're a bunch of weirdos too. I mean, definitely me. My family is gonna look back and go, "Ooh, great great granny was weird." But back to the house here. 100%. Alright, Ernie, see, but I get what you're saying too. Times were different, both show. And Delphine did have a little bit of a financial collapse, but she did recover. Yay, good for her. I'm glad. Sorry. That was sarcasm, guys. Her son-in-law, DeLossus, um, he managed to gain full control over her finances, over her property, and he wasn't very good at protecting her interests. So he mismanaged a lot of her funds. He used her funds to engage in some speculation and even used her money to pay his own debts. So by 1840, Delphine was almost broke. When did her husband leave? About that same time. So Dr. LaLaurie was probably like, "Oh, there's no money anymore," and he caught a boat to Havana. I don't know, banana boat? I don't know how he got to Havana, but anyway, so she pretty much borrowed and borrowed, like, how's that old, begged from Peter to pay Paul, so she would just keep borrowing and borrowing, hoping that at some point she could pay somebody back. And she did this, she sort of bounced around for a little while. They went to health resorts. She took the kids, well, not kids, but her children, adult children and her youngest one, they went to these health resorts. And I think that might be because the daughter, Pauline, we think maybe she had the scoliosis, and maybe a lot of times they'd go to these health spas for the water, or, if they had orthopedic issues, it was supposed to help them feel better. So, that may have been why they were traveling about, going to all these different health resorts at the time. But as of 18 December 1846, her fortunes changed when her brother Louis died at the age of 62. Louis had never married, but he did have a daughter, and he did recognize her as his natural daughter, so she was entitled to one quarter of his estate, and the rest of it went to his sister Delphine. But Delphine wasn't very satisfied with just three-quarters of it. He actually took her niece, uh, to court, arguing the inheritance, thinking that she deserved all of it. But the courts disagreed. They said, "No." But you wanna guess how much his estate was worth and why maybe she wanted all of it? The greedy little, I mean, she did have, what, 4 3 grown children living off of her and, her youngest still. So she probably did need some money, and she had to pay off some creditors too. 'Cause she'd been borrowing money for a while, right, to just keep that's probably another reason she kept moving around too, is so nobody could catch her. But when her brother died, his property altogether was worth about $7 million in today's value. The daughter received 2 million, and Delphine got about roughly 2 million for the daughter and roughly 5 million for Delphine. And even though Delphine wanted it all, she didn't get it all, but she still had 5 frickin' million. So, Delphine, so now she's comfortable again. She's got money. Yeah. Uh, these people were greedy back then. Every time they were contesting these wills left and right. Like, I looked at so many of these will records, and somebody contested everything. It blows my mind. Like, they would get almost all of the estate, but they wanted that last little sliver that, like, a kid that the father acknowledged out of, right, like, out of wedlock, but he acknowledged a child. By French law, that was still, they were recognized and they could inherit. These people were shady and shifty, I tell you. That was yeah, and people still are greedy, right, Tiff? They are. And this poor girl, right, the only thing, I feel bad for her. Her her parents weren't married, and even back then, I mean, that what it doesn't seem like it wasn't, I mean, she was accepted in society, she did make a pretty darn good marriage despite that, so it didn't hinder her, but then again, she did have $2 million, so I'm sure her husband overlooked a lot of things because she had a lot of money. That's still a lot of money. But yeah, these people were just like, it didn't seem like any of them were set. They had all this money already, but they wanted every single penny. They thought they deserved it. It's just crazy. So Delphine's in Paris. She's in this big, beautiful house. Very fashionable. She has 3 of her adult children, her son, Jean-Louis, and then she has her other 2 daughters, that frequently visit with their husbands and children. And Delphine died on December 7th, 1849 in this home. Her record lists her as Marie Delphine McCarty, or I'm sorry, McCarthy, but that's just a typo probably. And it says age 64 and wife of Louis LaLaurie, and they give his age as 48. Now, in France, they didn't give an official cause of death. It was never recorded, but they believed she had been suffering for quite a few years with some sort of long term illness of some nature because there were a lot of letters written back and forth, like, Mom isn't feeling well. Um, oh, mom's feeling better. So she must have had something that would require her to get to be bed rest and all of this. Like she would get better and then she was sick again because it seemed like a lot of the letters back and forth between her children, the ones in France and the ones in New Orleans. So she had something that was going on, but they never really said what it was. And now her church records, she had her funeral, which was 3rd class, which this is odd because she's got a lot of money. She's living in a big old fancy house, but when her body was presented for burial, she received a 3rd class burial, and then she was um, placed in the tomb of the Noda and Noel family. Not sure why, if she knew them. I don't know what a 3rd class burial was. I think that means she didn't have, like, a service, but I couldn't really find out. I think that's, like, no frills, like, they put her in the box and put her in the tomb. However, she didn't stay there very long, or actually, they're not sure if she stayed there. So there is some discrepancy whether she's still in Paris or did she finally come back to New Orleans? So the cemetery records in Paris indicate that she was exhumed from the tomb on January 7th, 1851. And on the paperwork, it says plans to transfer to New Orleans. So her remains were going back to New Orleans, but they're not sure if that transfer ever occurred because the records for St. Louis Cemetery number 1, where she also may be buried, well, not buried, but entombed, they're missing from 1841 to 1857, and I'm gonna tell you what, as a genealogist, this stuff drives you bonkers. This is like, "What?" Oh, the records you're looking for? Yeah, those are all gone. So, they're missing, so they're not sure. This is the tomb at the Paris Cemetery, and it looks so darn tiny, but I think this is probably one of those step down crypts. So, I want to go inside one of these. I know it's gonna be creepy as hell, guys, but I want to. But like I said, they're not sure why she was placed in here. Maybe she knew them, maybe they were friends or of some nature. Maybe some arrangement had been made that, "Hey, we're not gonna keep her there that long." Maybe that's why they just did a real quick, just put her in there because later we're gonna give her a funeral in New Orleans. I don't know. It doesn't sound like anybody else really knows either what happened. Now this is St. Louis number 1, which I'm gonna be at in just a couple weeks. This is where they think she may be, but they can't say for certain. So, her son, Paulin Blanc, he purchased this is a 6 vault tomb. these suckers are huge. It's big, and it doesn't look that big from the photo. They're huge, right? Like, each one of those little cubbies, that's a casket that goes in there, so they're pretty good sized. And he purchased this, but the first documented burial in one of these vaults isn't until 1884, and then eventually this tomb passes out of the family ownership. So they can sell these tombs, they can sell them at any point, and yeah, boop, it's somebody else's, and then their family's bones and ashes get mixed in with the bones and ashes of everybody down below. And now, did I put it I hope I put this in there, and it better be the next slide. Yep. Good. Yay, did something right. Uh, this was found in St. Louis number 1, so in the cemetery, and it was near so it was in the same aisle as that tomb, and it says Madame LaLaurie, née Marie Delphine McCarthy, deceased in Paris, 7 December 1842 at the age of 6, and it's broken off, so you can't see her age, but the date is wrong, the 1842. It could be perhaps somebody transcribed it wrong because she didn't die until 1849. So, yeah. So there's a little so we're not sure if she was in there, did the maybe somebody ripped it off to steal it, but yeah. In I think in Paris, I noticed Tiff's got oh, there we go. Oh, oop, right here. It seems like they did in Paris, on her death certificate, it has McCarthy on it, which is originally how her family's name was spelled. So, it's, maybe they just went off her death certificate, but then they got the wrong date, which, hey, I've seen that on tombstones, headstones and stuff now, so it doesn't shock me that somebody messed up. And I think this is sort of somebody went over this, right? This isn't how it looked. It's pretty beat up looking. I don't know where it is now. I don't even know if they know where it is now, but they think maybe somebody like you can see there's this one right here where the front part is ripped off of it on the right hand side, the middle vault. But maybe that's where she was. Maybe they ripped it off so people wouldn't come desecrate her grave. Uh, who knows? I'm not sure which, but I would think they probably wouldn't want to publicize where she was buried. People in New Orleans didn't like her. So, oh, I went one too far. Do you guys wanna know what happened to her kids? Because I can go real quick through them. Oh god. Darlene, I am so sick of snow, it's not even funny. I'm just so oh gosh, I can't. And Sunny wants snow. I will give you guys all my snow. All of it, because if I have to plow my driveway one more time, like, in the next I'll have to plow it again Saturday. I'm just gonna lose my mind. Oh, goodness. Sunny, the only way you can see, St. Louis number 1 is with the tour now, because it's completely off limits to nobody can just you can't just go and walk in there anymore. Just because, if you've ever heard of, Madame Laveau, the voodoo priestess, her tomb is in there, and a lot of people come and make offerings, and they put the 3 X's on the side of her tomb because that's part of the ritual. They come and ask favors of her. They put the 3 X's, and they leave her, like, a little token of some nature. Her tomb is very, very old. A lot of these tombs I mean, look at I'll pop back to I mean they're rough. Some of them I did a slideshow on St. Louis number 1. I'm gonna take you guys all around it when we're going at night, and then we're gonna do a day tour as well. So, it's so beautiful, but people they just disrespect things and, uh, mm, makes me upset. But, yeah, so we're gonna do a night tour with, like they're gonna let us do some, like, ghosty stuff, like, maybe, I don't know if they're supposed to give us equipment or I don't know. I'm just going to try to take some really cool photos and stuff at night because 'cause I'm bringing my tripod, and I wanna get some really cool night shots and stuff of the cemetery. But, yeah, you have to pay them now to go and tour. There's, Lafayette Cemetery number 1, which they've now done that too as well, which is the one I don't know if you know who Anne Rice is. Sh That cemetery is now locked up, and it's probably gonna be the same way as St. Louis because people get in there and, uh, take pieces off of these tombs. I mean, these things are hundreds of years old, some of them now, and people are in there, like, taking a brick, picking stuff off of them. And it's just disgusting. So, yeah, and they spoil it for everybody else because a few people can't keep their little fingers off stuff, but, yeah, and I can't wait, I'm excited, I love this cemetery, and hello, TF, welcome, and everybody's like, "Yo." Okay, yeah, they are saying it is supposed to oh, okay, back to snow. You guys stop, snow is a dirty word. And hello, M, welcome. Welcome to the channel. We're talking about New Orleans, which is probably what I'm probably gonna just you guys are gonna get sick of it in the next couple weeks, since I'm gonna be there, what, 2? It's gonna be 2 weeks. It better not be snowing in New Orleans because I'm gonna speak to the manager. I'm gonna turn full gear. But welcome, M. I hope you like, our topics. We did a little history, we're doing a little ghost, and yeah, that's what we're working on, and a little tour. I'm being the tour guide right now to New Orleans. Oh, okay, no more snow guys, I said no snow talk. Just kidding. I'm gonna end up sunny in New Orleans the day after Mardi Gras ends. I can't trust myself at Mardi Gras, so I'm going for the cemeteries and we're going to a couple plantations and stuff, so I can't party like I used to anyway. Yeah, and it is dangerous. Apparently the Lafayette Cemetery number 1, when the last time I was there, and they said, "Be very careful," like, one guy was, like, walking around with us, and I said he's like, "Oh, I'll be your tour guide," and I'm like, "I've already been here, like, I don't know how many times." I said, "I know it, and I'm just gonna show my friends around, show them, we knew what we were looking for." And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna stick with you guys anyway." So, we had this guy, this tour guide, right, and he just followed us and just I don't know, maybe he thought we were up to something, I don't know, but yeah, he just to make sure we were safe, so and, oh gosh, Sunny, she's on my list. I'm gonna go say hi to the Rice tomb as well. I love Anne Rice, and I'm so sad that I can't, but I can still see her old house, so I get and then now I'm gonna go see her. I haven't seen her tomb yet, and I haven't been to that cemetery yet, so I'm really excited. It's gonna be awesome. I've been looking on doing, like, the virtual map tour, like, looking at all of them, and I'm, like, marking all the cool ones that I wanna it's yeah. Some people go shopping, I go to cemeteries and look at the cool ones, and hello, there's my boo, Sassy, hello. Sassy, she's been gaming, she let her gamers steal her away from me. That's why I'm sick. I'm glad you're back, Sass. All right. So I am going to pop over. We're going to talk about the mansion real quick. Well, not real quick. That's what we're going to. Well, hang on. Let me tell you. I'll tell you real quick about her kids because we've mentioned them. That it wasn't what their mother did wasn't their fault. But when Delphine passed away, her estate was valued at about $7 million. So, like I said, she was living pretty good still, and she still had significant property in and around New Orleans. She had several slaves still listed under her ownership. Her daughters, so under the law, everything was divided equally between her surviving children. So there was Borgia from her first marriage. There was uh, Jeannie, Pauline, Laurie, and Paulin from her second marriage. And then there was Jean Louis from her marriage with LaLaurie, with the doctor. So that was all dispersed between her children. And the adult children, they emancipated 3 enslaved women, and they were very old ladies. So they're not sure if these were women that had been with the household for a long time, like maybe these ladies uh, had served the family back when they still lived in New Orleans, but whatever the situation was, they decided to emancipate them. Uh, the fact that they were old and probably couldn't do much anymore too was probably another reason. But they didn't wanna pay for them take care of them, so then they turned them loose. But, Pauline was the first of the children, to die. Pauline was the one that we think was crippled with scoliosis, and she died in September of 1850, and she was only 40. And we think she was the crippled daughter because of all the spa resorts that they went to, and these were typical places where people would go to help with chronic orthopedic pain. And Borgia, who was her firstborn, Borgia Lopez, she died in 1884 at 79, and she lived in New Orleans. She somehow remained, despite her mother's infamy, she remained in the elite social circles. Like, it didn't touch her at all. And then Paulin, her son, who pretty much got pushed out of Yale, he died in 1868. He was only 53. He died from lung cancer, and he died at the home of Borgia's. He died at Borgia's home. She was taking care of him. He had married, but he had no children, and his marriage was pretty troubled with a lot of allegations of domestic violence. And then the youngest is or wait, nope, there's one more, sorry. Yeah, the youngest, Jean-Louis, he was probably the most burdened just because he had the last name LaLaurie, and he couldn't go very far without people knowing who he was. He failed at every business scheme that he tried to get into. Did a lot of speculation, failed at that, and he was pretty much described as a lost soul. He never married, no known children. He died in 1883. He was just 55, and he died in New Orleans. The record states he died from cerebral softening, and I'm not 100% sure. That could be quite a few things. I always thought it meant senility, like go senile, but I don't think he was old enough for that, 55. So maybe he had some sort of mental health issues going on, which wouldn't shock me with what he had to grow up with. And Lori Blanc, She never married, and she lived in Paris with Jean, wait, no, yeah, with Jean de Losses. She died in 1881 at 68. She never married, no children. And then Jeannie Blanc de Losses, she ended up separating from her husband that didn't take care of her mother's money very well. They separated, and she'd lived with Laurie until her sister passed away, and then Jeannie died in 1900, and she was 85. And sounds like she probably had a pretty good life too. So the boys didn't fare so well. Both of them seemed to be pretty unhappy. The daughters seemed to kind of come out of it doing all right. Uh, yeah. So we don't have to feel this is one situation where at least the women weren't. Usually it's the other way around, right? Is usually how it works out. Yeah, people ruin everything, don't they? Oh, no respect for anyone. Oh, Ernie. Oh, we got a dog in the chat. See, that's better. I like dogs better than squirrels in the chat. But yeah. Oh, I see the doggy. Anne Rice was that lady that wrote that story about Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Yes, yeah, that's her. She wrote Interview with a Vampire. And, yeah, that's her. She also wrote The Mayfair Witches, and that's my favorite series. So but, yeah, she wrote a lot of books on vampires. She wrote some erotica too. I have some of that. That wasn't as good as The Mayf I probably shouldn't have said I had that, but I did already say that I have all her books, and yeah. Oh, Anne was already oh, she already answered the question. That's 'cause I'm up here yammering. I gotta finish my vitamin water here. Alright. I'm gonna scroll down here. Boop, boop, boop. Oh my gosh, 77 and 81. Guys, it didn't get over 17 here today. So, oh. Yeah, I love New Orleans too, Sunny. I could yeah, I've lost count now how many times I've been. We used to go like a couple times a year when I lived in Dallas when I was there for school, and we always went for St. Patty's Day because that's like, little Mardi Gras. It was so much fun, and I figured I got in trouble on St. Patty's during the St. Patty's Day stuff that I probably shouldn't. I'd stay away from Mardi Gras, but yeah, and I can't wait to eat. I want some etouffee, I want some turtle soup. Oh my gosh, my list. Some gumbo, jambalaya, red beans and oh my gosh, now I'm hungry. I think I'm feeling better because 'cause I'm starting to get Are you playing, like, real mini golf? Or, like, on the you like, for real, real? Will you go, Sass? No, what no, you're not mini golfing because you just live down the road from me. There's no way you can mini golf. As I choke and cough up a lung. Oh, so it is Xbox One, okay. Like mother, like son. You have to wonder what Paulin I wonder if he saw some abuse going on with the doctor, if he was he treated Delphine cruelly. Like, what did that mean? Was he abusing her? Did Holland see this? Like, as because he would have still been pretty young pretty young when his mother married the doctor. So, maybe he saw this and thought, That's what men do to women," but we'll never know, but yeah, I do feel sorry for Jean-Louis, really sorry for him because he just couldn't get away. He just couldn't get away from that name, and it's sad. And she's still, Madame LaLaurie still has descendants in New Orleans and all around, so yeah. Alright. TB Wet Brain? What's Wet Brain? I've never heard of Wet Brain either. I just love all the things that people died from, like brain softening. I always thought that was senility or, like, dementia, like, that sort of thing, that's what they always, Ernie, we're gonna play Fallout 4 together. I'm gonna get my own console. My kid never lets me. My We have a PlayStation, whatever it is, and Xbox, I don't they're not. They're all in his room, and I don't wanna go in there because it's scary. Um, and the beauty series. That's it, right? That's the erotica, right? I think that's it. Let's see, Wet Brain. Oh, wait. Shoot. Wait, wait, wait. How did I get There we go. It's colder than a witch's tit. I don't even think witches have tits this cold. It's so freaking cold. I have not been to the Myrtles yet, Sunny. It is on my list, though. It's on my list. I don't know how I've missed it. Uh, I really need to look up and see how close it is, and maybe maybe I can convince my bestie so that we can go, but yeah, that place is the amount of activity that's supposed to go on there. Oh, yeah, I wanna go there. Ernie says turtle soup. Oh my god, no way I couldn't. What? OB had it. She said it was awesome. It was, like, the best. So, I wanna try it 'cause she told me. And yeah, I wonder too if the younger son, well, he would've probably seen can you imagine what he witnessed and went through? It wouldn't have been idyllic for him at all. And yeah, everyone was abused. It's the 1800s, right? Everybody, yeah, that's just how ugh. Wet brain is water in the brain. Oh, I wonder if softening of I wonder if he was alcoholic or something. I'll have to look it up. Should I look it up real quick? Because now I'm really curious. Hang on. I know I've looked this up before. It's not the first time I've seen it on a death certificate, softening of the brain. Says brain tissue breaks down and softens, often following stroke, severe head trauma, infection, surgery, frequently leaving behind fluid filled cavities. Whoa. What happened to him? Encephalomalacia? Malaysia? Malaysia. Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. I'm usually pretty good with my medical terminology, but I could still have it wrong. So, hmm, so he coulda had a stroke, he coulda had head trauma, he could have had an infection, probably not surgery, uh, but yeah, something was going on in his brain. Maybe he was abused, maybe he had some, um, prior concussions. Yes, Ernie, we're gonna play Fallout 4. Alright, I'm gonna pop down here, and then I'm going to a couple hours away from New Orleans. Oh gosh, yeah. If I go, I'm just gonna go there and just stay there for, like, a couple nights 'cause, oh, that place. I've read this lady, I think she was one of the first ones to own it, like, outside of the family, she wrote a book on the Myrtles, and I think she is I'm gonna look up that book, and I'll talk about it, I'll find it. I know I have it here someplace, but, she is I think she was one of the first owners outside of the family line or something like that that owned it, and I think she's an author. Well, obviously, she wrote a book, but I mean, she's wrote other books. I'll find it. because it was really good. She talks about all her experiences there, and it's crazy. I don't know very many people that would have stayed there. Like, it wouldn't have bothered me, but I could definitely see a lot of people being like, "Nope, I'm out." Cooter clips are you trying to you're gonna make me laugh so hard I'm gonna choke. Um, I almost said, "Oh, cooter stew." I don't like that word. He did say it. Alright, guys. We're gonna finish up with the mansion and some of the hauntings. So we're going from history to well, we're still gonna be in the history, but we're gonna go into why some people wanna say it's haunted. So, the house that is the LaLaurie mansion now is not the building that it that Madame LaLaurie occupied. You guys are laughing at me over there, stop it. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh my goodness. Alright, let me scroll down here and up what I have up on the screen right now. This is, just a little excerpt that I pulled out. This is from historians with Tulane University School of Architecture. They from surveying the buildings down in the French Quarter, they made notes and they came to the conclusion that the house that is known as the LaLaurie Mansion now is not the same building that Madame Delphine LaLaurie inhabited. According to their findings, when the fire burned and the mob completed the destruction, there was probably very little left of the original house. So the structure that stands today was built around 1837 to 1838. And it is this rebuilt house that we see today. And if you read what they have here, this is their the impressive mansion known as the LaLaurie or haunted house actually is not the same building that the infamous Madame LaLaurie inhabited. When the fire burned and the mob completed the destruction during her ownership, there was probably very little left, which is a little odd, right? Since they say the slaves were up here. But I'll show you these photos here. I gotta lean back here. Get too close up here. Alright, here we go. So, this is sorta where now we've got we've got our history on Madame LaLaurie, which pretty much tracks, right? Like, we know she was very unkind to her slaves. She was brutal. She mistreated them horrifically. She was not a good person. But she was pretty much like everyone else of her time period that owned slaves. Many of many of them were abusive. It was probably maybe I shouldn't say it, but I feel like it was probably more likely for them to be abusive and not think of it as abusive than for them to actually be nice and, like, take care of, like, show kindness to the enslaved individuals. So, she really was just, like, just maybe a little worse than everyone else. But I told you how the slaves were found, what their injuries consisted of, so we have to remember that. So that is one area that we already know where what we know from actual documentation from 3 newspapers, right, that reported the same things, right? We know how they were found, and we know, like I've already said before, during the first part, we talked about, like, the crab lady, right, that had her arms and stuff bent. We're gonna come around to her. So, boom, 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 I gotta pull up Mr. George Washington I think it's Cable. Is that it? Yeah, George Washington Cable. He looks like, Colonel Sanders. Maybe he's Colonel Sanders' papa. I'm not sure, but yeah, he kinda looks like a nice old guy. This may be where some of the reality of where, Delphine actually lived and where now everybody says that she lived. So, George was a prominent writer of his time, and during one of the times that this house was vacant, so it passed hand to hand. It was sold multiple times, it served many purposes throughout its life, and at one of these points, I think believe it was, like, in the 1880s, he got a chance to go inside the mansion. And he got to walk around it. I mean, he got into every nook and cranny, and he made extensive notes. Like, he explained, "This is where the slaves were found, and this is the kitchen that caught on fire." Those were his notes. So, we know this is not the original structure. It's not even the rebuilt structure. It's a totally different home. But Cable still described this house as if Madame LaLaurie owned it, that she lived in these rooms, she walked these hallways, she walked on these floors. And it really he wasn't trying to be suspect, he wasn't trying to deceive anyone. He was pretty much relying on what people were telling him. So people in around him, the local traditions and the reputation of this house, it's the haunted house. So its story was it was already huge. So even though the LaLauries, their house burnt down, they lived there, what, 2 years? This has been called the LaLaurie Mansion ever since. Even though it served all these other purposes, it comes back to being the LaLaurie Mansion. That's what everybody calls it. So you can say that it's fixed. That's its identity. So he comes and tours it, and he's just pretty much assuming, and he takes, what does assuming do? And that's he did. He just assumed that this was the exact same house, and it wasn't. But then he wrote about it, and then more people read what he wrote. I'll pop up his Oop, go back here. Boom. I know, he looks like such a nice guy. I don't think he was trying to be mean, but, this is one of the books he wrote, and as you can tell, this is that little front entrance. So it's got the gate, it's got that beautiful ceiling up above, so that I mean, it's still an old house, and hang on, I gotta get back to my notes here, there we go. So, George, when he was walking through, like I said, he had it's his descriptions are vivid. He's talking about locks on doors and giant hinges and iron, hooks that are hanging from the ceiling. So, in his head, like, these iron hooks are what held the slaves up. This is where they were tortured, right? but they weren't. But he's a prominent writer. He wrote a lot of books about New Orleans and the area, the history around the area. So, from this point forward, all the authors that came after him, all these guidebooks, and then eventually our tour narratives, they treat the rebuilt house as if it was the original house. I'm sorry, guys, my throat's getting a little sore. I got some Diet Coke here, hang on. Alright. So, now we know that the house isn't the same house. So, Madame LaLaurie didn't live there. She didn't walk the hallways. This is not where the slaves were found. This is not where the kitchen fire was set. None of these things happened in this house. Not to say bad stuff didn't happen, but now we're gonna hit the subject of the crab woman. And I remember hearing this story when I first went down to New Orleans. I heard about, I mean, there were some horrible, horrible stories. So, and a little trigger warning, I left out a lot of the most of the gross stuff, but there's a little bit of gross stuff. So, where does this extreme horror, right? Like, where does the crab lady come from? Where's this slave that had sticks in his head where they were stirring his brain? Where's the surgically altered, bodies, right? Remember, there were supposed to be bodies that had, arms cut off and put on somebody else. One of them had their intestines out and wrapped around them, all sorts of things. None of these descriptions appeared in the newspapers, so the Louisiana Courier, the New Orleans Bee, an American paper, and a Creole paper. Nothing's in those. Nothing's in the court records. Remember, I told you guys there was the coroner's inquest. They had the grand jury. They have all of that documented. Like, it is thorough. Shocking. What a good job they did at that time period. Like, they're better than we are now keeping records. But there's nobody at that time period that was there, none of the witnesses, none of the journalists, the coroner, the officials, none of them ever mentioned anything about this crab lady. I mean, it was horrific what they described, but is that enough to scare people? Like, I hear maggots, like, I don't even like to say the word because it just grosses me out, but that's horrifying enough for me. Like, if a place is gonna be haunted, people being treated like that, I can see the place being haunted, just the property itself being haunted, right? It doesn't have to the original house doesn't necessarily have to be there. The ground could be haunted, and with reason. But moving on to a couple other authors. I'm gonna pop up. So we're gonna leave oh, I forgot. This is, so when George was touring this house, this is the section that would have been the kitchen, and from part 1, if you guys remember well, and for those of you who weren't here for part 1, blah, 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 as I get tongue-tied, this started out as a two-story mansion, so it only had 2 levels to it, then the 3rd was added on some point later on. I forget when it was added on, but where that little arrow is pointing up, now that's supposed to be where the enslaved individuals were held, but even if this was the original house with 2 stories, that wouldn't have been there. So, again, there's another error. Now this guy, he's pretty cute. Wait till his next picture, guys, you're gonna like him. So, Lafcadio. I am Lafcadio. I hope I'm saying that right, but Hearn, he he was one of the first ones. Uh this was between the 1880s and 1890s. He romanticized, and I don't even know if this is a word, but I'm gonna use it, Gothicized New Orleans history. And he didn't invent the crab lady, but or the brains being stirred, but he did emphasize this atmosphere that there was all this privileged emotional horror that was going on, and started kind of blurring, what he was writing about was blurring the facts, and started shifting everything into more folklore. So he wasn't sticking to the facts of it, he was embellishing. He was starting to make it a little bit more, uh, fantastical. I don't think romantic should have been one of the words that I used, but gothicized. Now here he is in another. I shouldn't make fun of him because he's not alive anymore, but he's got at least one Sudoku eye, right? Yeah, because the facts weren't bad enough. Uh, I don't see this guy romanticizing a whole lot because he looks pretty, uh, freaked out. He looks and it's just the one eye. One of his eyes is funky. I don't know. I'm gonna stop laughing. Yeah, he definitely woke up with some regrets. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But hey, you gotta laugh at some of this stuff. But he so that's what he did. So we're going from now we've got um we've got the wrong house. Now we've got gothic 1880s, 1890s, right? Like we know the Victorians loved all that dark, brooding, gothic. I love it too. We're seeing the shift. And none of these people were alive or knew Madame LaLaurie. The next one that comes along is Mr. Arthur, and he's another author. And now I just picked a few of them. There's quite a few authors that all sort of did the same thing, but I just picked a few of them, especially the one with the weird eye because that was really caught my attention. But Arthur is the one that began to escalate it all. So he was a journalist and a folklorist, and all of his works were on New Orleans history. And they weren't, despite being a journalist, he was they weren't very academically rigorous. I don't even know how I got that into my notes because that sounds too big for me, but comparing to, like, how our standards are now, he went a little above and beyond. So he freely mixed in, a lot of oral tradition, so what people were saying, he mixed all of that in with history. So we really get a mix up of all of it. He dramatized a lot of these scenes. He didn't cite his sources. He treated rumor as truth, and this is where it kinda gets really bad. Author Arthur the author. Yeah, thanks. I just saw Arthur, the author, and then I was like, "Yeah, that I should not have tried to say that." But, um, he's the one that opened the door to the body mutilations, the prolonged torture, and he almost turned it into, like, Frankenstein, like, parts being taken off one person and put on to another, and from here, pretty much all the writers, later writers and tour guides, they all came back and they just amplified and embellished even more. So, as a journalist, he wasn't, "Hey, here's what I found. Here's my documentation." Uh, he was like, "Hey, I wanna horrify my audience," is pretty much what he set out to do. And now I want to get a couple of his books because I wanna see how crazy they are. Um, and this is from a graphic novel from 2000, in the 2000s. I can't remember what year it was, but this is supposed to be Dr. LaLaurie, and then the lady over in the doorway is supposed to be Madame LaLaurie. And this is, "She jumped off the roof and broken many of her bones. Let's see how many more we can break before she expires." And the doctor says, "Lovely idea, my darling." So, as you can see, it gets even worse. All right. Let's see, where am I? All right, let me pop over here and see what you guys have to say. Oh, I can't believe I'm still, like, upright. I gotta drink a little more Diet Coke. All right, I'm gonna go back here because I think this is where, yeah, most of them did treat their pets probably better than they treated the enslaved. And hello, Anna. Anna, did I say hi to you already? I don't think I did, but hello. And Ernie's like, "It's a trap." I didn't trap. So, which one, Anne? Who made it up? Well, I think it's slowly. Initially, I started off like this. It seems more like this is started like, the game of telephone, right? Like you whisper, you start with somebody, you have a phrase and you pass it around, you go around in a circle and you whisper it. And then usually by the time it gets to back to the person who said the original statement, it's not right anymore. It's kind of what happened here. We have a lady that wasn't, yeah, was she a little demented? 100%. She was cruel, unusually so, even that shocked her neighbors who were probably just as cruel to their enslaved individuals as, they it was a freaking oh, I can't even get the words out right now. But they did naming the house. Yeah. Wait. Did naming the house. Did naming the house. I'm not sure what kittens. I don't know. I'm probably but yeah, he probably no, I don't think George realized what he was doing because he was but he did just assume, right? But you can't just assume if you're going to put something out there and make it and sell it and try to pass it off as fact, like a history of New Orleans. It should be pretty accurate, and if you don't know, then don't write it, but that is where everybody will swear up and down. You go on a ghost tour, they swear up and down that is the house, that is it, that is her house, like, the you could I don't even wanna go, like, I always go on one of the ghost tours because I just think they're fun. They're just fun. I don't even know if I wanna go now because I might say something. 'Cause I got a big mouth sometimes, but, um, when I got kittens, I wish the Mayfair witch's house was a real house. Kittens, it is. Anne Rice lived in the First Street house, and I'm gonna take you guys there when I go. Yeah. So, yeah, the house that she based the First Street house in the Mayfair Witches, that is the house that she lived in New Orleans in the Garden District, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely yeah. Oh, I want it. But, yeah, I don't have that kind of money. I never will. Um, let's see here. I'm gonna I can't remember what my next slide is. Oh, it's a picture of the house. Okay, that's good because I don't ugh, God, that picture was grossing me out. Yeah, Sunny, so, I did this one. Oh gosh. Just the one eye, right, Rubicon? Just one eye, the Saduki eyes. That's as soon as I saw that eyeball, I'm like, "I gotta put this picture up," because yeah. Just in the one eye, though, Darlene, yeah, just in the one eye. It's kinda funny. Um, Arthur the author. Alright, am I down now? Alright, I think I am. Yeah, kind of like our news now, right? Like, everybody's like, "I'm a journalist." Ugh, so am I. Uh, right? I guess I'm a journalist. I'm telling you guys stories. Pe Apparently, that's all you have to do is just tell stories to people. So this is one, what's it say? This was between 1979 to 1983. I'm not sure what portion of the house. I'm gonna try to figure out where these room like, from these photos, and then when I get back, we can line them up. But it served as, apartments, like, it was split up into different apartments. Not high class apartments either. The French Quarter wasn't elite society forever. It served a lot of immigrants, so they had a lot of Italian immigrants, and I can't remember who else. There was another big, ethnicity group that was there. I kinda wanna say Greek, but I don't I can't remember, but, um I might have made note of it here in my notes, but, good night, Ernie. Thanks for coming in. Alright, so back to the crab lady. So, no evidence. There's no crab lady. There's no brains being stirred, no experimental surgeries, no anatomical transformation, no intestines being wrapped around people bodies. Hey, hey, there's my new friend. Hi, Heather. Or is this Heather or shoot, I've already forgot the other name. Oh no. It was one of you guys. So yeah, so what we do know was already bad. These people were chained. They were essentially being starved to death because they were only getting porridge, not even good porridge, but gross stuff, right? They'd been confined for months. I don't know what the mutilated part entails. I don't so if they were being beaten, but we do know one was infested with little creepy crawlies, and this they were made to suffer. That is bad. That's bad. I don't think we need to pull out their intestines and wrap them around them or stir their brains up for this to be truly horrifying, but they did. 'Cause if you told me that on a tour, I'd be like, "Whoa, that's really bad. That's horrifying." Yeah. Sorry, guys. I got a loss for words with that one because it just uh, okay. So, as the writers go on, it just gets a little worse with each retelling. That graphic novel, as you can see, suddenly, Dr. LaLaurie is Dr. Frankenstein, and they're just cutting people up, and that is I think we can end it there. Well, not end it, but that's where I'm gonna leave. That's the history of the house, so we know it's not the original house. This is a different house. We know that how the slaves were found is not how they are portrayed to be now. Yes, it was bad. Yes, they suffered. Ex it was awful. They didn't need to take it to the level that they did, but they did. So, I'm gonna move on. We're gonna do the hauntings real quick because that's probably the best part, I think. Because now I'm starting to wonder about the hauntings. So, let me pop over here real quick. Yes, kittens, thank you. It was the Irish and the Italian that were down in yeah, in the French Quarter. Yeah, streamnesia, I tell you, all the time. And hello, Heather. Oh, goodness, thanks for coming by. Well, kittens, the maggots probably did help that that man because they would have kept it clean to a degree, but that just prolonged his poor life. I mean, the guy probably just wanted to die at that point. It and I couldn't find a whole lot that said what happened to those 7 individuals. So, I don't know if they survived their ordeal, if they were freed, because technically, I guess they'd still be under her ownership, so and you need to be emancipated by the owner, so I'm not even sure how that worked out. They do not. There's nothing that I found. Maybe I if I keep looking, maybe I did. The author didn't really she didn't know either of the book that I was reading, so it's kinda sad. I hope they didn't just get another one of those suspicious disappearances that seems like a lot of the enslaved people had to endure back then. Um, Heather says, "I should really go visit my cousin that lives in New Orleans." Never Oh my goodness, yes, you have to go. It is yeah, I tell everybody, "Go." Um, it is just there's so much down there, and I mean, they don't they don't even need to make up stories for how all the history that's down there, they just need to let it speak for itself. And with everything that's gone through there, all the lives lived, all the people, there's gonna be there's gonna be some people staying behind after they've died. So why do we gotta make the supervillain out of this poor well, I'm not gonna call her a poor woman because she was awful, but they should talk about all of them like that then. If they're gonna talk about her, I think all of them were just as awful as her. Uh, alright, I'm gonna get to the hauntings real quick, and we'll go so, when you go to New Orleans, they're gonna tell you this is the most haunted house in the city. Visitors have reported hearing screams, they've seen apparitions, and when they look at this place, they have an overwhelming sense of dread. This is not from the events of 1834. This is very recent history. So this isn't even around the time or even shortly after or even before 1900. So all of these apparitions, hauntings, this all came much later on. Let's see, where did I leave? try my notes are so long, but I have to skip through some of these because 'cause we'll never never get done. Not in any description from like I said, the house has switched hands many times, not ever staying in possession of one person for very long, it seems like. One gentleman did own it and rent it out several times. He owned it, but he didn't actually live there, but the multiple tenants that he had, yeah, he multiple people lived there, under his ownership, so it did technically different people lived there a lot. So, boom, 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 I'm gonna skip that part. This is it, right here. So, I was looking into when did the stories of the hauntings start? And I found 2 really cool stories, and I hope I get these right. I've got a little bits of notes because I wanted to try to, remember remember it the best I could, because it was I would have had 20 more pages of notes. So, there's at least 2 of them that started with these ghost stories, and they charged money for it. One of them was a gentleman who he owned the house. Oh, that's supposed to be Madame LaLaurie there, by the way. He owned the house when it was still the 2 stories. His family and he occupied the upper floor, and then he had a store on the bottom floor. And I believe he was an Italian immigrant or a Greek, Italian or Greek. Not that I'm not saying they're the same. I just can't remember which one. And he wasn't doing so well, and his store wasn't doing very well. He was, suffering a little bit with with money flow. So he decided, knowing that this had a little bit of an infamous history, putting some of my lip oil on, my lips are starting to dry out here. He knew the house had an infamous history, and he was gonna make a little bit of money out of it. So he started offering people could pay him to come in and tour the house. And when people would come in, he had people hiding in closets and cupboards and locked rooms where people couldn't see them, people rattling chains, people making noises like they were ghosts. So he was the first one because he needed a little extra cash, and apparently he did very well because he eventually could move away and bought a better place. And then when the place became apartments, and this is when there was a lot of Italian immigrants, and they were all broke up into these little the mansion was all broke up into little apartments. There was a young boy, and I gotta admire this little guy because he's pretty damn smart. He was charging a nickel to all the kids at school to show them a real ghost, and they would give him a nickel. And then he had his older sister stand in the upper window one of the upper windows in a white nightgown and pretend she was Madame LaLaurie. And apparently he made some bank off of that. And I have to hand it to him. I mean, that's very enterprising. I'm not I'm not gonna condemn condemn them. I mean, they were poor. This was a very poor area at that time with all the immigrants, right? They were probably he probably helped feed his family, so I'm not whole either of these, either the shop owner or this little Italian boy, I can just see him. Oh my god, like a little ooh, like just a little sassy little guy. I just see him in my mind. And I love it. You gotta hand it to 'em. They It's not right, but hey, they were trying. They had families to feed. So They weren't the only ones, there were a lot of others that did this as well. When it was in the public school system, it was a school, they had African American girls that were housed here and went to school here. The girls would tell stories that, they would come to the teachers with cuts and bruises, all sorts of things, and they would blame it on the lady, and everybody was like, "Well, they shouldn't know who the lady is," right? Because 'Cause they're blaming all of this on the ghost of Madame LaLaurie, and I'm a little suspect of them too. I think I don't know if this little Italian kid knew about Madame LaLaurie and that this house was haunted, right? Like, this apartment building at the time was haunted. I'm pretty sure these girls that were going to school there already knew some of the infamous history of the place, so I'm gonna kinda lump them in there too. But there was there's not been any documented hauntings, like, actual true, like, where somebody that lived there wrote a book, like, "This is what I witnessed, this is what happened." There hasn't been any of that. So, still, these stories are going on and on. They've like I said, we've got the shop owner with the chains. He paid somebody to right, rattling the chains. That's one of the things people say they hear, that there's chains that rattle because of the slaves that were right, like, they were, um, in their chains. I have to I w maybe I should just go on the ghost tour and then just, like, record it and bring it back to you guys because, I was told, like, a really the story I heard it was traumatizing. I was glad that I'd had, like, 4 hurricanes and, um, yeah. It was pretty horrible. Um, so we have that this house, it's remained public fascination, it's a dramatic setting. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But look at here. It's decorated for Halloween. This is supposed to be Madame LaLaurie. There's another one that I saw that I guess she gets to come down out of the attic or whatever, like, for Halloween, right? So she gets to one of the photos that I saw, I couldn't get it to download. I think they were trying to copyright me or something. They actually had fake blood, like, on the back of the door there. I'm assuming it's fake blood. I don't wanna know if it wasn't. But they obviously play up the fact, right, that this was her house. These are the things she did. She did all these I mean, she did awful stuff, but not the stuff that they're saying that she did. So, it's been exaggerated. I think it's kind of being exploited to a huge degree because it's no longer historically accurate. She lived on the property. That's about it. I don't I mean, I guess, yes, she abused her slaves, but then even that isn't even accurate anymore, like, how they're explaining it. And then we have the little girl, and I talked about her on the last episode. I should have probably recapped with her, I forgot, but this is the little girl that supposedly Madame LaLaurie was chasing around through the house, through the courtyard. They went to the 3rd floor, and there's I think they call it a little cupola. I think that's the little top looking little tiny thing on the top or a widow's watch. I'm I don't know architecture, so but and that's where the little girl jumped off because she was afraid to be beat by Madame LaLaurie, so she just decided she was going to jump instead. Well, so that's not Madame LaLaurie's house, but another key point is that 3rd level and that cupola. those weren't even there for, the little girl to jump off of. So there's a little bit of a hang up with that story. I couldn't find where it originated from. She has a name, they call her Leah. This is a big story associated with the house. Supposedly, when you say her name, she can shut the street lights off. Like, they have those, they're supposed to look like gas lights. I don't think they're gas, but maybe they are. Supposedly, if you say her name, I don't know, they flicker and go off, and then they'll come back on. And I'm starting to wonder if somebody's messing with people, but I hope they're not going that far, because that's a step too far. So, when we looked at this little girl that Madame LaLaurie, either the girl jumped or she pushed her. You hear it both ways. Hang on. Hmm. There's no historical record. A lot of the slaves that Madame LaLaurie owned during her time up to the fire, they did have, Catholic burials. They didn't get fancy burials, but they did at least get a Catholic burial, and most of them are accounted for. So there wasn't a little girl that died that they know of in this period of time. There definitely wasn't one named Leia or Leah. Sorry, I went with Star Wars there. But so the house that Madame LaLaurie lived in didn't have a 3rd floor, and it's not the same house. What else did they have on here? Yeah, and then the name Leah, so there's no enslaved person in any of the LaLaurie ownership records that state there was one named Leah. Most of them had very French names, like Celeste and, like, Bastion and big names, like, big French names. So, I don't know where Leah would have even kinda tracked into that, and I don't even know where her name, like, who came up with that one, but, I mean, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a young slave girl, like a young child that did suffer in that household, that did die in that household, but at least that part of the story, there's nothing documenting it. Sorry, I had to slow down a little bit. What is documented, Madame LaLaurie, she did get into legal trouble for the treatment of her slaves before the fire, because she did pay fines. She did have to shuffle her slaves around to other slaveholders, and then eventually those slaves would get returned to her. Just great, which was legal, but there were rumors that she was a little bit harsh. Considering the time period for them to say she was harsh, that's probably a lot. And what a few complaints, but some of them, I kinda think some of the complaints maybe are a little sus, because they were other women who were also in her social circle that may have been, maybe a little jealous. I'm not, but I don't quite one of the women got in trouble herself and paid some fines and had her slaves, removed from her for a time period. So, yeah, I'm a little suspicious of some of the complaints as well, but still, we know what she did, so it doesn't matter. She was still bad. But so there were the rumors, there were complaints, there was a lot of unease, but we still don't there's still N no child, no chase, no fatal fall that's documented. And this is kinda one of those stories that is more urban legend now, just because it's repeated so often, and that's how you can always tell, like, an urban legend is just the repetition of it. It's always the same story, same way, like, it's got this, like a horse's gallop. it has a rhythm to it, and that's exactly how this story goes. So, this one kinda a little suspect to me as well. Not to say that did a child I'm sure lots of children died. I'm sure lots of them did. Whether through mistreatment or poor conditions, I'm sure they did, and I hope they're resting in peace because that's just and I think that is where I think that's where I can wrap it up. Am I on page 30 of my notes now? Oh, so I hope you guys like this. This was one of the things I like to do. I kinda like to take these ghost stories and break them down. I just like to see where the truth really is, like, where they've come up with these stories because there are actual real hauntings, like, they know the people who live there. People have experienced situations with these spirits. And then you have things like this, which, if you truly believe these are the things when skeptics, right? They're like, well, look at this horse shit. And then I'm like, yeah, yeah, I agree with you. This is kind of horse shit what they're doing. Could there be some hauntings? There very well and there's undoubtedly suffering that occurred here. We don't know what even occurred after the LaLauries. There was a man who was murdered in one of the apartments when it was in like a sort of halfway home for men. They just found him. I don't even think murder was solved from what I read. So there could be other people who died there that could be part of these like phantom footsteps. And let me look. I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything because I do have like a couple more pages of notes. Doo-doo. All right. I still can't get over that crab lady one. That's pretty good. I think somebody would have died back then, though. If they would have broke their bones like that and tried to reset them, I think they would have gone septic. I don't see how that would have even been, but I'm sure they're not looking at that anyway. But let's see. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, that's the end of it. So, I've got a cute little speech at the end. So the LaLaurie house isn't just a ghost story, it's a story about power, cruelty, and failed justice. The rebuilt house, the legends, the hauntings, they are all part of how we remember. But history reminds us the real horror happened, it was documented, and it was undeniable. And that truth and the lives behind it are what matter. That is what I have for you guys. Oh my goodness, I got through it and I didn't fall asleep because of the Sudafed. And let me see what you guys said here. I saw the chat. I try to keep up, just see what you guys see. Yes, this is the one I saw here. Lady Bathroy with the fruitcake. I'm kind of wondering a little bit about Madame LaLaurie too. I wonder if she had something going on upstairs. Something was not quite right, but, these are photos of so this is the house, the mansion right behind her. This is one of the tour guides with the umbrella. I think I've done that tour. But as you can see, like, there's all these people, like, all hours, all day long, all there, always checking it out, taking pictures. I don't know how anybody could ever own and live there with this many people that keep showing up. If I was there, I would make sure the real story got out 'cause so people would leave my house alone, but, let's see. And Heather says, "I wanna see if I can track down her natal chart." I have her birth date and her death date, all, so you can look her up. She I just there's a lot more to her. Yeah, she just wasn't what they want her to be. Still kind of a arsehole, but, um, and Heather says, "I feel like sensitives like myself would have physical reaction that'd be hard to handle for long." I picked up I felt like I don't get a good feeling from it, but it did occur, these tortured slaves, it did occur on the property. And then to find out that the one gentleman was murdered there and it wasn't ever solved. They don't know who did it. They thought it was a robbery at first, but nothing was taken. Money was left behind, valuables were left. So somebody killed him and they don't know who. That could be a restless spirit, but undoubtedly many enslaved people probably died on that property during Madame LaLaurie's time, whether from her cruelty, from illness, sickness, they just weren't taken care of, and people on and after that. Let's see. I go down. I know. Oh, the one that the one with Madame LaLaurie, and there she is. This is the book. If you wanna This is what I read, this is what got me like, I went down the rabbit hole. I found all the documentation that she laid out. I've I pretty much found, a lot of it. So, she's got everything cited and sourced. I didn't find anything wrong with her documentation. I found the same records, like the slave records. They're all on ancestry.com. You can pop her name in and you can find all this information. So it's accurate to that degree. She finalized. I was going to ask you guys what you all thought of her too. So if you guys want to start popping that in the chat for uh whoever's got a good opinion or any opinion of her. I feel like, yeah, she's a step above the typical awful slave owner. I don't think she did this alone. I think her husband had something to do with it too. I'm not man bashing, guys, but I don't think she did this alone, and I think that was probably one of the reasons. 1, she ran out of money, and 2, I think he was probably worried that she was gonna face legal consequences for what happened, and I think that's why he got gone and went to Havana. I don't think he's innocent. The fact that I mean, nowadays, he if he was in the household and he saw these things going on, he'd at least be, right, an accomplice. Yeah, and and kids always know the dirt. What that young and that's what makes me wonder, like, what did that their young son, Jean-Louis, see? Poor a lost soul. Like, I hear people I don't like somebody being termed as a lost soul, that just it breaks my heart, and just knowing that what he had probably witnessed in that house just must have been horrific. Bet those tours eventually morphed into the haunted houses that they hold on Halloween today. Can you imagine if that house it's owned privately, and I think the same person has owned it since Nick Cage lost it. So it's been in the same hands for quite a while now, which it's supposed to be cursed with people only keeping it for so long. Part of my thought process is probably people get sick of having their tour groups out in front of their house 24/7. That would kind of make me wanna maybe move, and plus, gosh, it's gonna cost a lot of money. That house is freaking huge. If you guys wanna see the photos of the inside of the house, go to part 1, and I've got the slideshow in there. It's crazy. It is beautiful. A little odd. Some of the rooms are a little odd, but it's still beautiful. Like, I would hey, somebody gave it to me, I'd move in, but it's the red room, I would probably change that one, but I would keep the billiard room purple that room would stay the same, but it's still really cool, so I found all the pictures because 'cause I'd never seen what it looked like on the interior, and I found a couple there's not very many older photos of what it looked like as it was a mansion, like, as one big house, so there weren't very many photos of that. I tried to look and see if there were any of it when it was an apartment, and I couldn't find many of those either, but maybe when I go down there, maybe I'll see if there's some place that, I can find to get I'm so curious, like, I still wanna know more, but I think all the documentation, unless they find some sort of mother lode someplace that got hidden, I think this is we'll just have to let the documentation speak for itself, and I wish they would stop, um, hmm, I know they get a lot of revenue off ghost tours, but they don't actually ever go in this house. So, I think they could easily take it off of their tour because there's other places that they get to go into that they can tell all their stories about, but yeah, I think they could should leave this place alone. That's just my opinion. Um, what is the name of the hard punch they serve? Yeah, the hurricane and the fish bowls. Oh, what were the fishbowl ones? What was in those? It was like some sort of fruit punch kinda stuff, I thought, or like Hawaiian punch or I can't remember, but those hurricanes, man, woohoo! They pack a wallop. Can't believe I was still walking after 4. I wasn't walking well, but I was still walking. I got it. I think I had to get carried back. Yeah, the windows that are literally on the sidewalk, and they're you could never open your windows, like, on the first floor, right? Like, you just have to keep them closed up all the time. Because I witness people walking right up and, like, looking right in there, let's just like, yeah, they don't care. And they do have security. I know there's, like, little cameras everywhere all around there, but it doesn't stop people. They still go up there and, yeah, look around everything. Avoid the first level. Yeah, you'd probably just live on the 2nd floor or the 3rd, but they're those rooms are so cute too. There's some I could see myself in that one room, like, reading a book in the by the big window. Oh gosh. Didn't the new owner remodel it from what I've seen? I don't like it. The one the the photos I found on Zillow, I don't know if those are I don't know. I think those are Nick Cage's. I wanna think he had a red room. They're a little weird. I mean, I'm not gonna knock it. I'm not a designer, and that's probably I mean, this is my wallpaper. I have crows and daisies. Somebody's gonna think that's weird too, but the red thing, that red room, that's a little above and beyond. Even I think even for chic people, that's a little different, but I don't know. I definitely could see Nick Cage that being his room for some reason, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I had 4 of those things. 4, 4, and yeah, they didn't just bite me, they, like, kicked me in the head. It was bad. Alright. I do not know what I am going to do for Sunday yet. I know, I love crows too, I'm gonna get a murderer. I'm gonna have my own little murder. That's my goal in life is to have a murder. Not to commit murder, but to have a little murder of crows that when I go places, they, like, follow me around. I think it would be so yeah. Have a photo shoot with my crows all around me. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't know what I'm gonna do Sunday yet. I think I'm gonna still be alive by then. I'm feeling better, but yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So, maybe I'll bring some more New Orleans ghost stories because there are some really good ones. Or maybe I'll just do some cemetery talk. We could talk about, more about St. Louis. I'm trying to think. Yeah, my brain. I'm just glad that I finally got this one part 2 done, so I thought this was gonna be a part there's gonna be another part 3, and I was like, "Oh my god." Befriended for. Oh, Pat O'Brien's. That's where I'm gonna be found probably every night with at least I'm probably gonna at least have 1 hurricane an a night because 'cause they're very good there, and if that piano bar is still open, I'm gonna be there too, but, and thank you very much, and welcome, Sonny, I'm glad you guys were here. It's great to see so many new faces, and I hope you guys like the story. Definitely go check the first part out too, like, I really got into her childhood, her first couple marriages, so it's all kinda builds up, lets you see a bigger picture of her. Doesn't make her look any better, but yeah. So, I'm gonna wrap it up there because 'cause I'm gonna go pass out with Tansy, did you wanna come up? No, she's not gonna come up tonight, guys, I'm sorry. The cat usually comes up at least once, but she tuckered herself out. I will play here, I'm gonna play this one more time. This is my new sponsor. Alright. Since I don't know if somebody might have missed this one, but this is my new sponsor, and I'm very proud of it that I have a sponsor now, so here it is.
Tonight's stream is sponsored by Amazon Basics Home Crematorium. Simple, reliable, and designed for closure. Because grief should be convenient. Amazon Basics. Lowering the bar for eternity.
Alright, and then I've gotta cleanse you guys before I let you go too. So, one more. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of my Amazon, Basic sponsorship. Alright, guys, thank you for being here. I'll see you Sunday night, and have a great weekend. And yeah, have a great weekend, and happy Curmudgeon it's over, but happy Curmudgeon Day anyway. It was fun. There we go. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye.